Hello, this is Lisa, CEO of Site for Wight, welcoming you to this week's Talking News on Saturday the 11th of June 2022. This week we've been very busy in the office making our video. On the 21st of June, Midsummer Solstice, we are holding a hat and sunglasses day in an effort to unite the Isle of Wight to promote avoidable sight loss. Our intention is for every single school child on the island to watch our video. The video talks about how important it is to protect your eyes, especially young eyes, from harmful UVA and UVB rays, which can lead to macular degeneration in later life. So our message to the children of the Isle of Wight is, put on a hat, pop on your UV protective sunglasses and protect your eyes for the future. The video features Jasmine, who is our education officer, who delivers our full education programme into primary schools on the island. The video features our 4 characters who are used in the education programme. We have Swoop, who is an owl and is the voice of reason and understands the importance of wearing sunglasses. We have Digger, a mole who is curious and always wants to know everything. Salty, a sea eagle, is a know-all but knows very little in real life. And Bounce is a bat, always listens to everyone's advice. The characters tell the children how important it is to look after your eyes and remain healthy in order to protect your vision for future years. I very much hope that everybody enjoyed the newsletter that went out last week and are looking forward to hearing back from people to join in the activities. Thank you very much, Lisa, CEO, Site for Wight.
Arson investigation after fire destroys former arcade in Ventnor from the Isle of Wight radio. Steve. A fire that tore through a derelict former arcade in Ventnor is being treated as arson, police have confirmed. An Isle of Wight radio previously reported more than 10 appliances from Hampshire and the Isle of Wight and Fire and Rescue were called to the Esplanade on Tuesday. Police are now working to investigate the cause of the blaze. At the height of the fire, thick black smoke could be seen for miles. Islanders looked on as firefighters tackled the flames in the former Gaiety amusement arcade. Nearby residents were told to close doors and windows over fear of smoke inhalation. The building had recently been part demolished as part of plans to convert it into a seafront home. It was hoped that the iconic dome could be incorporated into the proposals. Anyone with information are being urged to contact police on 101, quoting the crime reference number 442202260052.
This is Den reading an article from Island Echo. A total of 120 Red Funnel staff could walk out over disgraceful treatment. Unite says that Red Funnel's treatment of its workforce is a disgrace, ahead of 120 staff members being balloted for strike action. In a dispute over poverty pay, around 20% of the cross-Solent operators, customer service staff, shunters and ratings will be asked between the 14th of June and the 5th of July whether or not they want to take industrial action. If the majority vote for strike action, then Red Funnel services could be seriously impacted this summer, with no action being taken before late July. It comes as the workers have rejected a pay offer of 4.5%, rising to 6.5% for the lowest paid staff. Union members of Unite are asking for a 16% rise. Unite says the workers are increasingly struggling to pay increased rents. Some are turning to food banks and making the most of food allowances at work to keep bills down. General Secretary Sharon Graham has said, Red Funnel's treatment of this workforce is a disgrace. These workers put themselves and their families at risk during the pandemic to keep the ferry services operating so food and essentials could reach the Isle of Wight. This is no way to repay them. Red Funnel must respect this workforce and pay fairly or face strike action. Unite is determined to win them pay that supports a decent living And should our members take strike action, their union will be with them every step of the way. Regional Officer Ian Woodland adds, a strike will cause severe travel disruption to and from the island, but the fault for that disruption will lay with Red Funnel, who need to recognise that many of their staff are sliding quickly into poverty. We urge the company to put forward a pay deal that reflects the soaring cost of living, so strikes and the disruption they will cause can be avoided.
This is an article from the Island Echo, read by Terry. 6 years behind bars for Yorkshire man involved in Bembridge blackmail plot. A 32-year-old man from West Yorkshire has been jailed for more than 6 years for the part he played in a blackmail plot that targeted an Isle of Wight man, as well as a £160,000 fraud against a wealthy man from Gloucestershire. On the afternoon of the 5th of November last year, Kwaku Achampong of Chantry Road, Wakefield, travelled more than 4 hours to the Isle of Wight to hand-deliver letters to an address in Bembridge, which demanded the occupant pay £100,000 into a German bank account or face nude photographs being splashed around the village. However, the letters were delivered to the wrong address and ended up on the doorstep of an elderly woman. Over the course of the next 6 days, the victim received a series of texts, phone calls and emails with threats, including violence, if the demands for payment were not met, and this was reported to police. Local detectives set up a sting involving armed police and arrested Achampong in a car park of Tesco Extra in Ryde on the 11th of November, as exclusively reported by Island Echo. Investigating officers examined Achampong's phone, and inquiries led them to discover a second victim from the Gloucestershire area who had been manipulated into handing over large sums of money to someone they met online just 2 months before Achampong's blackmail attempt on the island. The victim in this case subsequently met with Achampong on 2 occasions at a service station off the M5 in Gloucestershire, where he handed over a total of £160,000 in cash. Following investigations into these incidents, Achampong was charged with blackmail and 2 counts of fraud by false representation. However, investigations revealed that Achampong was not the mastermind behind the blackmail and fraud, with both plots being led by an unknown individual called Martin from Germany. The 32-year-old appeared for sentencing at the Isle of Wight Crown Court after admitting all 3 charges against him. He was handed a 6-year, 9-month prison sentence. DC Anthony Daniels from the Isle of Wight investigation team has said, Achampong embarked on a ruthless and manipulative campaign fueled by greed. The men who were victim of these awful crimes have been significantly impacted by Achampong's offending. Achampong travelled across the country to pursue these wicked deeds, and he will now pay the price for his involvement in this.
This is Alison reading an article from the Island Echo entitled Isle of Wight Austins Club Celebrate 100 Years of Iconic Motor and the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. The Isle of Wight's Austin Car Club has celebrated the Queen's Platinum Jubilee and the 100th anniversary of the iconic Austin 7 and Austin 12. The club travelled to Thompson's Garden Centre for breakfast on Wednesday the 1st of June, with all the cars and travellers decked out in red, white and blue. The Austins then proceeded in a convoy to Quor Abbey for a traditional picnic. The following day, 2nd of June, the club gathered for a traditional afternoon tea at Albert Cottage, with the Austins making their way through East Cowes. The club then gathered with their vintage vehicles at the new Holmwood Hotel, Egypt Esplanade, Cowes, on Tuesday the 7th of June for the big event, the anniversary celebration lunch. All the Austins again appeared resplendent in red, white and blue, with their drivers dressed elegantly in 20s outfits.
Sandown mourns the loss of town crier, John Davies from the Island Echo, read by Terry Mitchell. John Davies, who for many years has been heard shouting "Oyez, oyez, oyez" on the streets of Sandown, has died. Mr. Davies has represented the town as the town's official crier for as long as anyone can remember, with his last outing being for the Queen's Platinum Jubilee last weekend. It is thought he was the last remaining town crier on the island following the retirement of Ryde's Steve King last year. John, who was a Brentford Football Club supporter, sadly passed away on Tuesday, aged 80, after a battle with cancer. His family say he was loved by all and will be sorely missed. Sandown Carnival Association has said, "John was a huge character at our events, a former committee member and a great supporter of Carnival. He will be sadly missed by us all."
This is Den reading an article from Island Echo. New cafe and tattoo parlour on the horizon for prominent Shanklin building. A new lease of life could be coming to one of the most notable buildings on Shanklin High Street, which has been empty for 5 years. Plans have been lodged with the Isle of Wight Council to transform the former NatWest Bank into a cafe and tattoo studio. The offices on the first floor, once used by the bank, which left the town in 2017, are proposed to be turned into a 3-bedroom flat. Proposed plans have been put forward by James Fleming, who says there will be no impact on the building with no changes to its appearance or structure. Partition walls will be added to separate the cafe and tattoo parlour on the ground floor and create bedrooms in the flat. You can view the 2 sets of plans, 22/00690/FUL brackets tattoo studio and 22/00740/FUL brackets flat on the Council's planning register. Comments can be submitted until the 1st of July.
This is an article from the Island Echo, read by Terry. A man who stole hundreds of pounds worth of Pokemon cards pleads guilty. A man who stole over £250 worth of Pokemon cards to pay his crisis loans has pleaded guilty to theft. Alex Cooper of George Street in Ryde pleaded guilty to 2 counts of theft when he appeared in front of magistrates at the Isle of Wight Magistrates Court on Tuesday morning. The court heard that on the 25th of February, Cooper had entered Oasis on Carpenter's Road, St Helens, and stole 21 packs of Pokemon cards amounting to the value of £237. He then came back the next day, 26th of February, to do the same, stealing just 1 pack worth £40. In defence, Michael McGoldrick said his client was, at the time of the offence, on universal credit and had multiple crisis loans from the job centre to pay. He added that the 23-year-old was in a better financial position now and had recently completed an engineering apprenticeship. The chair of the bench also added that despite his economic concerns, Cooper's decision to steal the cards didn't help resolve heating or gas issues. Cooper was ordered to complete a 12-month community order with 100 hours of unpaid work and was ordered to pay £270 of compensation to Oasis.
This is Alison, reading an article from the Island Echo entitled Changes to Important Council Services During the Isle of Wight Festival 2022. A number of Isle of Wight Council services will be affected by the Isle of Wight Festival, which is taking place from next Friday, 17th of June, to Sunday, the 19th of June. Islanders are being urged to take note of changes to the opening times and locations for a number of different services. Sea Close Office, Newport. Sea Close Office, Newport will be closed from 12 midday on Thursday the 16th of June, partially reopening to the public from 08:30 on Monday the 20th of June, depending on the service required, and fully opening to the public from 08:30 on Tuesday the 21st of June. Anyone attending this office between Monday the 13th of June and Thursday the 16th of June is advised only to do so if strictly necessary. Parking during this period only will be at the entrance to Sea Close Park on the grassed area. Register Office. The Isle of Wight Council's Register Office Marriage Room will temporarily move to County Hall in Newport during the festival. From Friday the 17th of June until close of business on Saturday the 18th of June, all civil ceremonies will be held at County Hall, High Street, Newport. The civil ceremonies will be back at Sea Close Park from Monday the 20th of June. The Register's Sea Close offices will be closed for face-to-face appointments from 12 midday on Thursday the 16th of June and all day Friday the 17th of June and Saturday the 18th of June. All birth, death, marriage notices and further information telephone inquiries will continue to be handled via the existing number 01983 823 233. Coroner's Office. The Coroner's Office will operate from Sea Close offices as usual, although there will be no provision for personal collection of paperwork from Thursday the 16th of June at 12 midday until Monday the 20th of June. Telephone inquiries will continue to be handled via the existing number 01983 823 010. Crematorium. The crematorium will be operating its usual opening hours over the weekend of Saturday the 18th of June and Sunday the 19th of June from 10 o'clock to 1400. Planning ICT offices. The Council's planning services, including Building Control Office, will be closed to the public from 12 midday Thursday the 16th of June, Friday the 17th of June and Monday the 20th of June. In the days leading up to and after the festival, there will be public access, but parking will be extremely limited. So customers are advised it may be better to avoid the Sea Close office unless it is to attend a pre-arranged meeting. The office will be open as normal to the public from 08:30 on Tuesday the 21st of June. Customers can check information and use the online services available on the Council website at www.iwight, spelt residence/environment-planning-waste/planning/ Leisure Centre Theatre. Customers are advised that One Leisure Medina will be closed for the duration of the Isle of Wight Festival from 1400 on Thursday the 16th of June and will reopen at 0600 on Monday the 20th of June. Westridge at Ryde and the Heights Sandown will be open as normal throughout this period. Swimming lessons at Medina are cancelled from Wednesday the 15th of June to Saturday the 18th of June. The lessons will resume on Monday the 20th of June. For further information, email medinaleisure@iow.gov.uk or telephone 01983 823 880. Waste services. No changes will be made to the collection day of your waste or recycling. Ensure all waste is out by 0700, 0630 for Fairley Road residents on the day of collection, as routes may be changed due to roads being affected by traffic diversions. There is also the possibility of strike action from the 13th of June. Festival complaints contact. If you have any concerns relating to noise or licensing issues during the Isle of Wight Festival, you can contact the Isle of Wight Council on 01983 823426. This is a 24-hour number. For further council-related information, including travel regarding the festival, visit https://festival/about.
Body found in search for missing Yarmouth man Tony Gwynn, from the Island Echo, read by Terry. The body of a man believed to be missing 74-year-old Kenneth Tony Gwynn has been found on the beach at Boldner, police have confirmed. Hampshire Constabulary say that the body of a man was located at Boldner Beach to the east of Yarmouth on Monday. Whilst formal identification procedures are ongoing, Kenneth's family has been informed. The death is not being treated as suspicious. Tony was last seen on Wednesday morning, the 1st of June, at around 0600 hours in a car park near the Market Square in Yarmouth. 14 hours later, police launched a public appeal and a large-scale search followed. Wight SAR, HM Coast Guard and the National Police Air Service helicopter had all been involved in the search for Tony, but they failed to locate any sign of the pensioner.
This is Den reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio. Deep sea divers take home the treasure at Chillerton and Gatcombe Scarecrow Festival. The winners of the Chillerton and Gatcombe Scarecrow Festival have been announced. The popular festival, which took place last week, saw hundreds of islanders descend on the two villages, where more than 100 scarecrows were on display. Visitors were asked to vote for their favourite scarecrows during the course of the week. They'd been created by villagers in all different shapes and sizes. The winner was a fantastic shipwreck display, complete with two deep-sea divers made by Zoe Rind, Gareth Ryder and family. In second place was the Gruffalo, complete with a mouse, an owl, a snake and a fox, just like the iconic children's book. The design, which proved popular with families, was created by Rachel Groves. And in third place was a scarecrow created by George Hatt in a nod to the Platinum Jubilee, the Queen in her carriage complete with guard and soldiers. A pop-up tea room and Gallybagger Inn joined the festivities, along with live music during some evenings. Chairman of Chillerton and Gatcombe Parish Council, Nigel Phillips, said, "Our community really came together to produce scarecrows of high quality in such numbers. Many visitors thought that the quality and variety of the cakes available in the village hall were also a key part of the experience. Even the weather helped. It was a wonderful week." The 10 most popular scarecrows were as follows. First, the undersea divers. Second, the Gruffalo. Third, the Queen in her carriage. Fourth, Man on the toilet. Fifth, Aladdin, Princess Jasmine and Genie. Sixth, the Goths. Seventh, Winnie the Pooh and Friends. Eighth, Queen and Flag. Ninth, Traditional Scarecrow. 10th, Floral Queen.
This is an article from the Island Echo, read by Terry. Yarmouth pupils sign their names in steel at new school site in Freshwater. Pupils and staff from Yarmouth C.V. Primary School recently attended a steel signing ceremony for their new school building, which is due to open next year. The children made their mark by signing their names on the steelwork in the new school hall, which will stand for decades to come. After donning hard hats and high-vis vests, the group was able to go on site for a behind-the-scenes tour of the £5 million school being built on the site of the former All Saints C.V. Primary School in Freshwater. The visit enabled the children to see some of the features of their new school firsthand, as well as learn more about the construction process during a Q&A session with Paul Clark, site manager from Morgan Sindall Construction. Elizabeth Granger, the head teacher, said, "It's lovely for the children to be involved because there has been lots of talk about the work and they are very excited to see the changes. My amazing leadership team and I look forward to making this school a safe place, a happy place, a place of deep learning, a place of growth, a place to thrive, a place for the future." The new single-storey, 13,035 square foot school will include 7 classrooms, design and technology suites, a larger indoor hall and enhanced sports provision. The project is being jointly funded by the Isle of Wight Council and the Department for Education through its Priority School Building Programme. The estimated completion date is early 2023, with pupils and staff moving to their new premises later that year. Clifford Kinch, Area Director for Morgan Sindall Construction, said, "We're so pleased to be celebrating this exciting milestone for the development of the new Yarmouth CEVA Primary School." That is voluntary aided. It also gave us a great opportunity to show the pupils how their new school is being built. Creating inspiring educational places is a key part of what we do, and we're proud to be delivering these facilities on the Isle of Wight for local staff, pupils and parents to enjoy. We look forward to continuing our collaborative work and relationship with all stakeholders on this project through to successful completion. Councillor Debbie Andre, Cabinet Member for Education, said, "It's lovely to have the children here today. Involving pupils in the construction of their new school is a great way to help them understand what goes on behind the scenes at a construction site and, of course, helps build excitement for their new place of learning. We are committed to transforming education on the island, and I'm pleased we can continue this transformation with building this new school for the local community, which will, I'm sure, be much appreciated by all those who will use it."
This is Alison reading an article from the Island Echo entitled "Island Composite Firms Behind New Footbridge at Newchurch." A new 12.5 metre footbridge, which is expected to last at least 100 years, has been installed in Newchurch, thanks to the work of Cowes-based composite engineering consultancy Struct Team and Ryde-based Apex Composite Structures. The newly installed structure provides safe pedestrian access through Newchurch, meaning walkers no longer need to navigate the narrow and busy stretch of road through the village. Newchurch Parish Council commissioned the building of the bridge and were seeking an economical and robust crossing solution for this section of Nora's Way, a dedicated rights-of-way footpath opened in 2019 by Nora Boswell's family in her memory. Struct Team and Apex's engineers specified lightweight materials and sustainable manufacturing methods wherever possible to allow for efficient production, easy transportation and rapid installation of the bridge. The composite bridge design was pitched against steel and hardwood alternatives. However, these traditional building materials require maintenance and repainting every 25 years. By comparison, it is estimated the composite bridge will need very minimal upkeep and will not need to be replaced for 100 years. Apex Composite Structures took inspiration from a similar footbridge commissioned by Network Rail in 2009 to improve pedestrian safety at dangerous level crossings. In fact, it was George Downer's father, Mark Downer, who designed and built the first prototype bridge for a Network Rail initiative. The bridge's foam core is made from 30,000 reprocessed plastic bottles. Struct Team maintains a varied portfolio of clients both locally and around the world. John Evans, Struct Team's composite design engineer, says, "Since our formation in 2010, we have delivered bridges, canopies and facades for many high-profile architectural designs. However, it is always a privilege to work on a project closer to home that will directly benefit the community and support other island businesses."
Shabby area could finally see a new lease of life as plans put forward from the Island Echo, read by Terry. Plans have been put forward to rejuvenate a derelict parcel of land in the heart of Cowes, previously branded increasingly untidy by neighbours. Market Hill could have a new addition after plans were submitted by the Isle of Wight to the Isle of Wight Council by Mr. and Mrs. Lavell. Planning documents described a house of high-quality contemporary design and proposals include a green roof, 3 areas of greenery at various levels and a roof terrace. Previously, planning permission was granted for a pair of semi-detached houses on the site in 2013, but it has since lapsed. Now, the new plans for the 4-bed house have been put forward to the council after residents of the nearby Castle Road, which particularly look down on the site, called for the shabby area to be tidied up. They approached Cowes Town Council, asking the authority to buy the land from the property developers and turn it into a small park. The Town Council has since set up a working party to see what can be done, and in February wrote to the Lavells asking for work to be done to clean the site. A heritage statement for the new plans compiled by West Sussex Archaeology said, "The site has been occupied by multiple dwellings since at least the late 18th century, although they were cleared away following the effects of bombing in the Second World War, leaving the site derelict ever since." The archaeologists say the redevelopment of the land will have a positive impact on the Cowes conservation area it sits in. They also say there is a clear presumption in favour of the development as its current appearance and character is not only out of keeping with the past, but also detrimental to its present setting.
This is Den reading an article from the Island Echo. Police on the hunt for man who made off with £3,000 worth of swag from Shanklin Jewellers. Police are searching for a thief who stole more than £3,000 worth of jewellery from a shop in Shanklin before making his getaway on a push bike. The incident occurred at an Isle of Wight jewellers in Regent Street at the junction with Clarendon Road shortly after 1600 hours on Wednesday the 1st of June. It said that the male entered the store and asked to see various items of jewellery before taking them once the attendant had put them out on the counter. He then ran out of the store with the jewellery before making his getaway on a push bike. Island Echo has been told the jewellery in question were gold chains worth several thousands of pounds. Inquiries are ongoing. Anyone with information should call 101, quoting the reference 4422021771. This is the second part of the Talking News, read by Lynn
and Paul, and I'm going to start with the news in the week's society news. Swimming is held every Monday at Medina Leisure Centre at Newport between 1:30 and 2:30 p.m. and the charity has the whole use of the pool, with the cost being £5 plus transport if required. Lunch club, due to be held on Tuesday, has sadly been cancelled due to low interest, and therefore the next one will be on July the 12th at the 8 Bells pub. Details to follow. Coffee and chat is on every Wednesday at Millbrook House, 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Only £1 for cake and coffee. Please come along for a chat, and members of staff will be there for any assistance with equipment and information. We have our carnival planning meeting on Wednesday at Millbrook House at 10 a.m. This is open to anyone, members, volunteers, family or friends of the charity, to come together and to plan our entry into this year's Newport Carnival on July 23rd. If you are unable to attend but have ideas, please do not hesitate to call the office and speak to either Susan or Jasmine. Book group is this Wednesday at 2 p.m. Millbrook House. This group is free to join and always looking to new members. If you like listening to books and have an interest in books, please come along. Advance warning that this month's stride will be on July the 1st, and details will be out this week to our Striders members. If you are interested in joining this group, please call the office for more details.
We've got an article here, Hotels Named and Shamed. Isle of Wight MP Bob Seeley called out the owners of the controversial Pennyfeathers estate in Ryde and Sandown seafront eyesores, the Ocean Hotel and the Grand Hotel, in Parliament. Speaking on Wednesday in a debate on changes to the laws on planning and housing, Mr Seeley called for more powers to be given to councils to allow them to say no to overdevelopment and to force owners of derelict buildings to use them or sell them. Mr Seeley said, "We see lazy developers relying on greenfield sites and we worry. We want the system to change. What we don't want is a system that keeps on giving to the developers who then give nothing back and who pocket development and then say, 'More please,' like some inverted Oliver Twist. What we want is people who deliver via communities, but also through the nation." Reacting to another MP's calls for more powers to tackle issues with planning policy, Mr Seeley said, We have the same with an awful development on my patch called Pennyfeathers. I wish the Secretary of State and Minister sitting here had the powers to say no to that, and we could go back to having a vineyard and green fields as it should be. In April, the 900-home Pennyfeathers scheme was back before planners when revised details for the controversial development were submitted to the Isle of Wight Council. Mr Seeley also used his speech to call for greater powers to tackle what he calls eyesores. He said, "I want the government to give more powers to councils for compulsory purchase. The owner, in brackets, of the Ocean Hotel in Sandown is fighting tooth and nail against forced redevelopment. Another owns the Grand Hotel in Sandown. These places sit empty year in, year out. Sandown is crying out for investment. The island cannot afford owners who, for whatever reason, keep these empty properties as eyesores damaging our communities. We need to make sure our councils have the power to say, invest, or frankly, jog on. In January, an application to refurbish the Grand Hotel at Yaverland was submitted to the Isle of Wight Council. The abandoned Ocean Hotel further along the Sandown coastline and formerly owned by the Carl Lauren Group was devastated by fire in May 2021. Earlier this year, a formal notice was served requiring its current owner to clear up the site. However, an appeal was lodged, and the matter is now expected to go to a final hearing on August the 3rd.
Patient transport is on the agenda. A task force is to be created by the Isle of Wight Council to address transport issues facing people who have to travel to the mainland for treatment. These are problems which fail to be addressed at the Council's Health and Scrutiny Committee meeting on Monday. The Isle of Wight Council recently announced those travelling to the mainland will be able to park in 2 car parks free in Ryde and Yarmouth, claiming the money back later. Darren Cattell, Interim Chief Executive of the Isle of Wight NHS Trust, said the move was a step forward but not the final one. He said the Trust will do everything it can to ensure islanders receive treatment in the right place, and if that is on the mainland they get only part of their fare back. One of the reasons people choose to have the treatment on the island, Mr Cattell said, was due to issues with travel. But in the long run, a relatively modest investment to improve patient transport may improve more people's health, as they will be more willing to travel. Councillor Claire Mosdell had concerns about the scheme, however, as it only involved 2 council car parks and nothing for patients travelling to Southampton via Cowes or East Cowes. Councillor Richard Quigley said the intent of the council scheme was good, but a bit of a faff to claim the money back. Cabinet Member for Adult Social Care, Councillor Carl Love, said there was still a lot to do to make it better, and it requires more investment. But they seem to be going round in circles which needed to be broken. Interim Chief Executive Wendy Pereira said it was an area that would merit a closer look as things have changed since it was last examined. Councillor Michael Lilly said there were anomalies and inequalities in the current transport system, including a lack of late-night ferries, which can be a focus of the task force.
Islanders are preparing to fly to South Korea for World Scout Jamboree. Around 20 islanders will head to South Korea next summer to attend the 25th World Scout Jamboree. The group will include 18 young people and 4 adult volunteers. The Jamboree is a skills, cultural and adventure festival. One big party involving members from around the globe. It will be held in Semenjeum in August 2023. It will be the largest scout camp to be held since the start of COVID-19 pandemic. Harry Taylor, an Island Explorer Scout, said, "This is a fantastic opportunity and I'm really looking forward to meeting so many different scouts and learning new skills." Between now and July 2023, the young people will attend training camps and team building events, preparing them for living on the hot and humid site. The cost of attending and the associated training is £3,995 per head, and Island Scouts are busy fundraising with the aim of achieving £44,000. The rest will be met through personal contribution. Lily Blake, Island Explorer Scout, said, "This is a huge but exciting undertaking for all of us, a once-in-a-lifetime experience. We have a lot of fundraising to do and hope the island will support our efforts."
Dental crisis worsening. More preventive action needs to be taken to solve the island's dentistry crisis, scrutiny councillors have said. It comes after there were no takers for a big NHS dental practice on the island, which could have provided enough capacity to solve the issues. At a meeting in the Isle of Wight Council's Health and Social Care Scrutiny Committee on Monday, councillors shared their concerns over once again the state of the island's dental sector following action or inaction by NHS England. Councillor John Nicholson, chair of the committee, said he'd been made aware of a private dentist on the island who was willing to take on NHS patients to tackle some of the issues, but the National Health Body never approached them. He said he was disappointed, frustrated and baffled by the action or inaction the NHS has taken, and the sooner the commissioning of dental services becomes local again, the better. Joanna Smith, manager of Health Watch Isle of Wight, said she could not emphasise enough the significance the dental crisis was having on islanders, and it was only getting worse. The report prepared for the committee by the NHS highlighted a really heartbreaking story for island families. Mrs. Smith said that as only 1 in 4 children aged up to 17 had been seen by a dentist between July and December last year. Mrs. Smith said every dental practice on the island needs to be involved in the solution with some short-term positive outcomes that can be delivered without waiting another 2 years. Councillor Michael Lilly said the former preventative work dentists used to do had fallen by the way, and the island now had children, particularly in deprived areas, who have rotten teeth because the work had not existed. Preventative health and early years work was critical. Michael Dyer, or Michelle Dyer, the Managing Director of the Hampshire, Southampton and Isle of Wight Clinical Commission Group said, as a model seen in Southampton will be looked at for the island. She said there was a desperate need to improve the state of dentistry on the island, but the movement of services locally would be a really positive step. The issues would not be fixed overnight, she warned, as the island has an inability to attract and retain dentists.
A trio named in Queen's Jubilee Honours List. 3 island residents have been named in the Queen's Platinum Jubilee Honours. Handed an MBE, Jamie Brenchley is the Isle of Wight Council's Housing Needs Manager and is honoured for his services to homeless people, particularly during the pandemic. He said, I am very humbled to be recognised for the part I play within our local system. However, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. I am very blessed to work alongside the most wonderful colleagues, system partners and service providers who have and continue to collaborate on a mission to end homelessness on the island. I've spent my career trying to make a positive difference to the lives of island people who have or are experiencing adversity. I am very proud of the impact and progress that I have led in recent years, but I am acutely aware we are in the eye of a perfect storm. There is still so much more we need to do to ensure everyone on the island has a place to call home. It is vital we continue on a positive trajectory and ensure we provide the very best services within the constraints of the resources we have available. Legal assistant Margaret Beecham, chair of Ryde Sea Cadets, was awarded the British Empire Medal, BEM, for her voluntary service to young people. She said, I didn't tell anyone. They are all waking up to the news. I'm so thrilled. It's their Ryde Sea Cadets unit and I just want it to be the best it can. Margaret says she is overwhelmed by the honour and she hopes it will inspire others to volunteer and support their local community. The Isle of Wight Council's Library Service Manager, Robert Jones, said he was honoured and somewhat surprised to receive a BEM for services to public libraries. Rob has worked in children's school and public libraries as well as teaching ICT in a secondary school. He is passionate about the difference libraries can make to people's lives and works with a great team of people that makes this happen. He said, it is lovely to have your work recognised in this way. I remain passionate about the value of reading for pleasure and how libraries support people's lives in so many ways and will continue to do so. I am lucky to still work with a great team of people that share my passion and without whom I would not have received this award. So I see it as a big thank you to them too. And Hampshire and Isle of Wight Fire and Rescue's Chief Fire Officer Neil Odin was handed the Queen's Fire Service Medal.
Last minute paid the offer. A ballot was underway at the time of going to print over a new pay offer to Isle of Wight refuse collectors in a bid to avert strike action on Monday. GMB union members, around half the workforce at Isle of Wight's council waste contractor Amy, have been offered a new pay deal just 5 days before a planned walkout. The results were expected yesterday, Thursday, and the walkout could be called off if accepted. The union wants its loaders, pickers to earn $12.50 per hour, cage drivers and driver and grab operatives to get $13.25 per hour, and a 15 hourly rate for HGV drivers. Amy previously argued its employees have had a 27% salary increase since it took on the Isle of Wight Council waste contract in November 2015, including a 4.21% increase on April the 1st. It made a new offer on Wednesday. GMB says Isle of Wight workers are paid less than their mainland counterparts, and of the 77.8% of its members who were eligible to vote in last month's strike action, 90.5% then supported it. If the fortnight of action does go ahead, we are told to put bins and sacks out as normal. The Isle of Wight Council said it will provide updates if waste is not collected. Both Afton Marsh and Limbottom household recycling centres will be open. Amy apologised for any potential inconvenience.
Students help out on East Cowes Esplanade. Students from the Isle of Wight College's Uniformed Services course have been helping to improve East Cowes Esplanade. A project planned to take 3 months is currently underway to restore access to the popular Esplanade area. Part of the beachfront road had to be closed due to landslides in 2014 and 2018. But following community fundraising and support, the Isle of Wight Council appointed island-based contractor John Peck Construction to stabilise the soft slopes with rock baskets and install new seating along the promenade. Students from the college have now joined in to learn about the project and help with building the new structures. One of them, Hayley McFarlane, said, "I feel like this work will really help the community in East Cowes. It will bring more people down here because it's easy to get to and it's a new view." Councillor Sharon Lake of East Cowes Town Council added, "The East Cowes community has been vocal for a number of years regarding improving accessibility and the visual appearance of this much-loved area. The Town Council has been working with community groups and the Isle of Wight Council since early 2018 with a view to bringing this project to a successful conclusion. There have been times when we thought it would never happen, but we are thankful to Chris Ashman, the Council's Director of Regeneration, for taking our wishes seriously and allowing us to explore a way forward. I am pleased that Phase 1 of this project has finally come to a successful conclusion. Never underestimate the power of a united and committed community."
Huge effort continues for Ukraine. From clothing, toys and knitted teddy bears to fridges and even desks. After donations are still very much appreciated and needed in an effort to support Ukraine. On the island, aid continues to be managed by East Cowes-based charity Mad Aid, which, until Russia's invasion of its neighbourhood, was supporting people with disabilities in Moldova. Now the charity's teams are distributing supplies across Moldova, helping support the tens of thousands of refugees who have poured over its border with Ukraine. Many of those who have left everything behind want to stay close because they speak the same language and are nearer homes. Others have even managed to return. Some are now in the Isle of Wight, and for them, Mad Aid is running a pop-up boutique. Its aim is to give refugees with nothing the chance to stock up on the basics, like a change of clothes for them and their children. It is a constantly evolving situation, and as the cost of living criticises bites in the UK, donations have slowed. Mad Aid says stocks of non-perishable food to help prepare for winter, sanitary products and white goods like kettles and microwaves to help kit out refugee centres are all needed. There are still donation points across the island, including at Mad Aid's home in East Cowes and the County Press Office in Newport's Parle Street. Mad Aid has sent 17 lorries to Moldova, of which 13 have been from the Isle of Wight. This week, another one was filled up and sent to Europe. CP Community Content Editor Kate Young's Horsebox has been integral to moving goods from all corners of the island to Mad Aid's headquarters, thanks to the efforts of her husband Hugh Couch and brother Mark Young. Podcaster Josh in the running for top award. Podcaster and writer Josh Barrett is in running for a national award. Josh, whose podcast and entertainment website is Beyond the Title, will find out the results of this year's British Podcast Award later this month. Josh said, "My former tutor and mentor Joe Tyler recommended I should enter the British Podcast Awards at the start of the year and helped me to compile a compilation of Beyond the Title's best moments as my entry. The rules stated that you could enter a 15-minute compilation of moments on a podcast which took place between February 2021 to February 2022, including re-releases. Therefore, we were able to use interviews I did with the late Barry Crier in light of his sad death, which meant a lot to me. I really wish John Hannam could see this because he would definitely be part of my entourage at the ceremony as a result of his huge influence on my career. Josh, who has cerebral palsy, hasn't been alone in his journeys. He has been aided by his PA, James Husband, who taught himself advanced editing techniques to edit the podcast, while Josh's other PA, Ian Tubb, and Will Nicholson got to grips with programs to upload the podcast to Spotify and SoundCloud. Josh said, "I couldn't have done it without the amazing team around me. I just hope we can reach the hallowed ground of the ceremony." Josh has been lauded by some big names in entertainment. Sitcom legend Jeffrey Holland said, "It was a pleasure to talk to Josh about my work. He gets right to the nitty-gritty with very intelligent questions, well researched." Comedian Arthur Ashe said he is an insidious researcher. He is a really good writer, and Beyond the Title is a really fine exploration of entertainment in the 20th and going into the 21st century. West End musical director Mike Dixon said, "Josh Barrett and his extraordinary nose. Beyond the Title would be amazing under normal circumstances, but when you understand how complex the process has to be for Josh, it is a veritable miracle. Amazing guests, clever entertainment interviews and wit. I commend Josh for his talent, ingenuity and breadth of knowledge of the entertainment industry." Josh's mum, April Barry, added, "Josh has risen to many challenges to pursue his passion to be part of the world of entertainment. The limitations presented by his cerebral palsy are no match for his positive and tenacious spirit."
And now row over a dodgy deal. Isle of Wight MP Bob Seeley was accused of being involved in a dodgy deal this week after he issued a press release about his support for besieged Prime Minister Boris Johnson in the vote of confidence that took place on Monday. Mr Seeley was in the minority of around 25% of the backbenchers who supported the Prime Minister, who has already been fined for law breaking and faces further investigation into parties in Downing Street during lockdown. Mr Seeley linked his vote for the Prime Minister to getting a commitment from ministers that they would look again at a special island deal for the island's council. Labour's Shadow Secretary of State for Levelling Up, Lisa Nandy, questioning the Secretary of State for Levelling Up, Michael Gove, on Wednesday, said the deal sounded awfully like corruption, but withdrew her original words when asked to do so by the Deputy Speaker. Eleanor Lang. Parliament's rules say that no MP may accuse another of being dishonourable, dishonest or lying when speaking in the House of Commons. Miss Nandy quoted directly from Mr Seeley's website, pointing out that he said he had supported Boris Johnson in the confidence vote only after discussion with senior ministers. Earlier in the day, Mr Seeley had told LBC Radio that he had not made up his mind how he was going to vote. The Isle of Wight Observer asked Mr Seeley on Tuesday whether he believed supporting the Prime Minister would make any difference to decisions about fair funding for the Isle of Wight. He would not give an unequivocal answer, but admitted there were no guarantees about an island deal being delivered, despite the Prime Minister giving him a commitment about it in 2019. He said he would continue to raise it at every opportunity. Yesterday, Thursday, Mr Seeley sent out another press release of more than 1,500 words claiming to explain the background and process for securing additional funding for public services. He said he had done nothing wrong. Labour's Richard Quigley said, "It's been quite the week for Bob Seeley. It started with his very painful to watch video on LBC, where he effectively said it was okay for the PM to lie and we should just get over it. He followed it up by voting in favour of Johnson to stay on as PM in exchange for ministers taking another look at the island deal. Something Bob assured me was a done deal in the 2019 general election hustings. The island deal hasn't happened as promised, but by saying he was persuaded to vote in favour of Johnson in exchange for another look at it means we will never get the extra money we badly need while Bob is our MP. If the government agrees to the extra cash, every MP in the Tory party will engage in transactional politics, making the government look wholly corrupt. If they don't give us the cash, they can claim no such deal was ever done, and Bob voted for Boris on merit. I have come to realise that Bob is a bit naive on this sort of thing, but I'm not sure he realised what position he has now placed the island in. We deserve better than playground tactics. We need a deal that improves the lives of all islanders, not just Bob." A spokesman for the Prime Minister said that money for local areas is decided in a process run by civil servants.
The Isle of Wight proved it certainly has some questions for the government when BBC Radio 4's long-running current affairs programme, Any Questions, came to Freshwater on Friday. Broadcast live from the Memorial Hall and repeated on Saturday lunchtime, the programme proved to be one of the liveliest for some time. Hosted by newly promoted political editor Chris Mason, the panel was made up of Conservative MP Andrew Griffiths, Minister for Policy, Labour MP Annalise Dodds, Shadow Secretary of State for Women and Equalities and Chairwoman of the Labour Party, political journalist Isabel Oakeshott, who has a second home on the island, and Colin Boswell, owner of the Garlic Farm. An enthusiastic audience was told by a producer that they had been overwhelmed by the number of questions submitted and it had taken some time to sift through them. The panel was introduced and Chris Mason relaxed the panellists before going live with a gentle subject. What was the first car they had owned and how much did it cost? Isabel Oakeshott had a Ford Fiesta, Mrs Dodds something similar, and Andrew Griffiths a brown Mini Clubman, all paying around £500 for their first cars. Colin Boswell had a Sunbeam Rapier that cost him £75 and which caught fire when his mother drove it. Silence ensued during the 8 o'clock news and suddenly Freshwater was live on air. The audience booed when right-leaning Isabel Oakeshott appeared to condemn COVID policy, turned to cheers when she concluded that the Prime Minister should resign. Colin Boswell was equally lauded when he wondered how on earth Boris Johnson had become Prime Minister. When Mr Griffiths answered, the audience found it hard to take explanations and apologies. One called out, "What about integrity?" The cost of ferry travel linked with levelling up was a subject close to the audience's hearts. The final question asked about labour shortages as a result of Brexit. Mr Boswell explained his full family will be working out in the fields for the garlic harvest. Not all of the chosen questioners got to put their question, and some audience members were inevitably disappointed. Afterwards, Chris Mason confided this had been one of the liveliest audiences he had come across, and had been surprised, given the strong Conservative majority, how anti-government it had been. When congratulations on his new job, replacing the redoubtable Laura Kingsburg as the BBC's political editor, he said he would miss hosting Any Questions. As a journalist, you get to ask questions, but it's much harder for the panel who have to answer them. He added, and an evening like it tonight was pure theatre. Speaking after the show, Mr. Boswell said, I found it quite inspiring because I felt it was democracy in action. Everybody was free to express themselves. It was punchy and fun.
Brading Town Football Club, the world's oldest football club, can now mark 150 years after COVID. And it's been in from 1871 to 2021. Brading Town Football Club, believed to be the world's oldest football club in existence, are belatedly celebrating its 150th anniversary by holding a special reunion event following their recent Isle of Wight Memorial Cup victory. Romans, players, past and present, including goalkeeping brothers Stuart and Simon Moore, who began their footballing careers at Brading and who now play for Blackpool and Coventry City respectively, were at the clubhouse last Friday to reminisce. There were ex-managers, coaches, committee members, volunteers, sponsors and fans at the Peter Henry ground. For Brading, who won the Memorial Cup for the first time in 35 years a few weeks ago, the club was founded in 1871, but COVID-19 lockdowns scuppered their plans to hold a series of 150th year celebratory events last year, so were put on ice for 12 months. Of course, many funny tales were told, including one of Brading players being chased by a woman who supported Oakfield, who chased them with an umbrella for having the audacity to have scored against her son's team. There were also tales that would shame most modern footballers, such as the one told by a former player who recalled landing badly and breaking his kneecap after he jumped for a header. And he carried on playing the final 15 minutes of the game in the days when there was only one substitute allowed. There were old team photographs, vintage programmes and other memorabilia, such as county press clippings connected with the club's glorious past to fascinate visitors. During the evening, old club photographs were screened continuously on a TV loop, which included their earliest photograph of the Brading team taken in 1872. There was also one of the FA Cup paying a visit to the club, and one of the Great 8 team, which won the Island League title 8 times in a row, a record almost impossible to beat, as W&B found this season after losing their chance to win it 7 times in a row on the last day of the season when Shanklin beat Brading. Club chairman Jeff Ruck said, "It was nice to see so many faces who've been associated with the club over the years, particularly former Brading manager Phil Moore."
Now move on to Vectis View, Reflections on Island Life. This is by Heather Humby, 50 years of service as a councillor. In 1972, after having been involved in various community activities for some years, I was persuaded to stand for election as a councillor on the Sandown Shanklin Urban District Council, SSUDC. At that time, SSUDC comprised of 14 councillors, 13 men and only 1 woman. I was therefore extremely surprised to be elected. How times have changed. Women are now represented on all island councils. When SSUDC ceased in 1974, it was replaced by South Wight Borough Council, and following a vote in 1995, the Isle of Wight Council replaced it as well as Medina Borough Council. I voted for the formation of the Isle of Wight Council, but with hindsight, I believe it was a bad decision. In my opinion, the Sandown Bay area has not prospered so well in recent times, and seems to become the poor relation to Ryde, Newport and Cowes. The Isle of Wight Council were once solely responsible for tourist amenities, but when deciding not to remain responsible for some non-statutory duties, those costs fell upon the town and parish councils, and coastal town councils especially. They became responsible for providing the extra services that are required for tourists, including beach cleaning, parks and gardens, and the extra toilets needed for the influx of visitors. The Isle of Wight was once described as a 3-legged stool, relying on agriculture, boat building and tourism for its income. Tourism benefits the entire island, and I believe that all charges related to tourism should be equally shared by a charge imposed upon all town and parish precepts. When serving as a mayor and chairman of the Isle of Wight Council, I was fortunate to attend many civic occasions. As mayor of Sandown Town Council, I attended a visit to Princess Diana for the opening of Sandown Fire Station, standing in the reception area. I was aware that, as she spoke with others, they were all shaking their heads when addressed. On finally reaching me, she asked, "Well, are you going to tell me what is this dreadful pollen I can smell?" Somewhat taken aback, and aware no one else had dared to tell her, I summoned up courage and replied, "Ma'am, the sewage works are just over the hedge behind you." Laughing, she slapped her thigh, saying, "Thank goodness for that. I started to think it was the Lord Lieutenant's aftershave." Civic occasions are a necessary part of the duties of chairmen and mayors. However, as chairman of Isle of Wight Council, I thought it important to experience many duties undertaken by our workforce first-hand. Consequently, I spent time with refuse collectors, parking attendants, the fire brigade and various other departments, including the police and ambulance service. It was the best decision I made as a councillor, being alongside those who served us on the front line and see the essential work they undertake on our behalf is so much more worthwhile than reading the endless reports received. My proudest moment has been my visit to Buckingham Palace to receive the award of the MBE for services to the community. Sandown is a great place to live with a caring community and many organisations who serve our town in various ways. I was instrumental in establishing Sandown Town Council in 1984 and was its first mayor. I was also its clerk for 11 years. It has been a privilege to serve Sandown's residents for more than 50 years. Of the various councils on which I've served, I must admit that it's Sandown Town Council that has been the most rewarding of all.
And now we've got my view from Malcolm Mime, and it's waging war on gravel plans. If you've driven through Wootton Bridge lately, you can't help but to have noticed the numerous red and yellow poster boards in front gardens with the word wage splashed across the middle. You could be forgiven for thinking that the posters are for an election campaign, but on closer inspection, wage isn't the name of a power-hungry local Wottonite looking to get a seat at County Hall, but an acronym standing for Wootton, Whippingham and Arraton Against Gravel Extraction, which in theory should make the acronym WWAAJ, but it's not quite as catchy, and you would sound as though you had a stammer when talking about it. It transpires that a recent planning application has been submitted to the aforementioned County Hall by Wight Building Materials, who are wanting to extract gravel from Palmer's Farm in Brox Copse Road over a 10-year period, using 2 lorries a day, making numerous journeys from the gravel site to St George's Down in Blackwater. If the number of wage boards on display are true reflection of the feelings of the Wootton Bridge locals, then the majority are clearly not in favour of gravel being extracted from an area directly opposite the site of the 1969 Isle of Wight Festival, where Bob Dylan performed to an audience that included John and Yoko Lennon and George Harrison. But the question is, are the Wootton residents right to object to this application? Or is this a classic case of NIMBY, not in my backyard-ism? The arguments being put forward by the wage campaigners include environmental concerns, noise and pollution impacting on residents, and the unsuitability of the roads. On closer inspection, these arguments do look like a classic case of NIMBYism, especially as many of the houses that have a wage board in their garden also happen to have either a gravel driveway or some other gravel feature on display. I guess their argument would be that just because they use gravel doesn't mean they want to live next to a site, which of course is a fair enough argument. I use coal, but I don't want to live opposite a coal mine. But gravel has to come from somewhere, and reserve stocks of the stuff are apparently running very low at Wight Building Materials headquarters. Acker, Baden Vectis to you and me. So, are these concerns valid enough for the planning committee to reject the gravel extraction application at Palmer's Farm in Wootton? Well, I for one don't buy into the environmental concerns. It's an objection reason that is rolled out by NIMBYs on virtually every application that ever gets submitted to planning committees. And this gravel site is just a nondescript field in the middle of a farm that can't be seen from the road. I also don't buy the noise and pollution impacting on residents argument. There are absolutely no immediate neighbours to the gravel site, and what possible pollution is created by digging? The one valid argument that Wage do seem to have made is the unsuitability of the road. The proposed access to the gravel site is Brox Copse Road, which is a B road without pavements or street lighting, that links Palmer's Road in Wootton to Whippingham. Brox Copse Road is part of the coastal path, and as such is used by numerous walkers and cyclists who already take their lives in their hands by using this narrow and winding road, without having the added fear of having to avoid 50 gravel lorries a day. For this reason alone I'm with Wage, but the problem remains that we do need gravel, and this particular site is one of the few left on the island, so it would make sense to extract it whether the NIMBYs like it or not. The obvious solution is to access the site not via Brox Copse, but at the end of Palmer's Road, where planning has already been granted for 40 plus new houses. The residents are going to have plenty of lorries trundling along there for quite some time, so they might as well take this line of disruption to kill two birds with one stone, or several million stones in this case. I really ought to get myself onto the council. I could sort the island out in days. Now, what's happening with that floating bridge?
Positive Outcomes and a Chance to Recognise Good Deeds by Jim Pegler. It's always important to take a moment to recognise good work, so I was delighted to host the Isle of Wight District Commanders Awards on May the 26th at Newport Congregational Church. Attendees heard of bravery and dedication from police officers and staff working on the island, but also of selfless members of the public who's helped others in their time of need. We've highlighted some of the deserving award winners and cadets on Isle of Wight Police Facebook page in recent weeks. Well done to them all. Of particular note was the praise received from a victim of a racially aggravated hate crimes in her workplace. Despite her initial apprehension about reporting the incident to us, we achieved a conditional caution as an outcome to our investigation. Her experience was so positive due to the dedicated and thorough support that PC's Farrants and Egerton provided. She is now considering a vocation in policing. Often public perception of the police is based on national or international coverage. I am proud of the service that we're given in this case, which is far more representative of what my team do than any national headlines. Of course, we're always looking to expand the skills and experience of our team, and we are recruiting for police constables, detective constables, PCSOs and police staff investigator roles based on the island. If, like the victim I highlighted previous, you're interested in a career in policing, you can find out more at Key Arts in Newport tomorrow, Saturday, June 11th, between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. Elsewhere, we've been involved in lots of proactive work in the last month, including supporting our communities with their Platinum Jubilee celebrations. It's been an honour to serve the public and the Queen at this historic moment. We've also been carrying out Operation Sceptre work to combat knife crime in our communities. During our week of action, 25 weapons were handed into Newport Police Station and a further 10 were collected by officers. There's also been great results from work to safeguard children on the island. A 38-year-old man from Newport was jailed for 16 years after a joint investigation with the South East Regional Organised Crime Unit into offences involving engaging in sexual activity with a child. a 47-year-old man was also jailed for 18 years for the non-recent rape of a child on the islands. Results like this send a strong message that if you report these kind of offences, we will investigate thoroughly and seek justice for the victims.
And now on to what's on the island. The Phoenix Choir is going to sing in aid of a museum. The choir will sing to raise funds to refurbish Carisbrooke Castle Museum. The museum collection encompasses 60,000 items relating to the history of the castle and the Isle of Wight, but the basement, formerly used as a kitchen when Princess Beatrice was in residence at the castle in the 1900s, is now in a state of some disrepair. Once repaired, the room will be opened up to the public, dressed with kitchenalia, and used for talks for small groups. The Phoenix Choir is holding a fundraising concert at St John's Church in Newport on Thursday, June the 30th, to help raise funds for the charity. They will sing their eclectic repertoire of songs from musicals, films, and other well-known easy listening compositions. The concert starts at 7:30. Admission is free, but with a retiring collection.
There's another choir performing, Isle of Wight Cantata Choir, at 7:30 on Saturday 25th of June at Ryde Methodist Church. Among the songs they will sing is Gloria, Zadok the Priest, I Was Glad, The Lily in the Roads. Tickets are £10 and there's a phone number here, 07760 852074.
And the Isle of Wight Jazz Weekend is going to be coming back from the 15th to the 18th of September 2022. And they have a website for all details. Tickets are on sale now, and the website is iwjazzweekend.co.uk.
Red Hot Chili Peppers play Robin Hill in aid of charity. A concert in support of Aspire riders and big hitters coming to the island next month. The Red Hot Chili Peppers, among those bringing their unique brand of rock and roll to our shores in a one-off show at Robin Hill. Famous all over the world and with the United States and European tours already planned this year, we are lucky to have this amazing sensation with us, said an Aspire spokesman. They will be joined at the Gala Summer Concert by White Hot Pipes, the island's own Celtic bagpipe rock band. The band have become internationally recognised after a standing ovation for their performance on stage at the B.B. King Club in Broadway, Manhattan, and have enjoyed success following their stage debut at Glastonbury in 2019. Dorset entertainer Matt Black, known as Piano Man, is also joining the fun, mixing music with comedy. To kick off the festival, grab a drink and snack from the bar. Sit back and be enthralled by the Scots Guard Association and White Rose Highland dancers. It's all in support of the Island community support charity, Aspire. The event takes place on July the 23rd at 6 p.m. And I do apologise, I said chili peppers and it should be chili pipers.
Now, up at Medina Theatre, there's various things on. Roy Chubby Brown, a comedian, he's on Saturday the 30th of July at 7 o'clock. But I would say, it does say over 18s only, and if you're easily offended, please stay away. Then on the Saturday the 10th of September, I'm Still Standing, the music of Elton John. Tickets £22. And on the 16th of October, a bit further ahead, that's a Sunday, Ralph McTell is going to be entertaining. If you want to find out about any of these, the telephone number for Medina Theatre is 01983 823 884.
Ad Lib Theatre are bringing Shakespeare to the grounds of Northwood House this month in an open-air production of Hamlet, sure to delight enthusiasts of the bard and newcomers alike. Something rotten in the state of Denmark. The recently widowed Queen Gertrude is marrying her dead husband's brother, Claudius, while her son Hamlet looks on with melancholy, powerless, or so he thinks. The arrival of Hamlet's best friend Horatio, with news about his father, soon sets the prince on a journey of revenge, love, madness, piracy, betrayal and wonder, with far-reaching consequences for all. The director Simon Lynch said it's a big play with a big reputation. How does one put on a play everyone knows? I think they know. For this production we took another look at the words. The genius of Shakespeare is that the words can be read and performed in 100 different ways, and each puts a different spin on a tale of the tragic Dane. While extraordinarily careful not to turn the play into a comedy, there are genuine moments of humour. At its heart it is a harrowing tragedy, but Ad Lib Theatre have looked at it with a Tudor eye. Stalwart of Ireland Theatre, Emily Scotcher picks up the mantle and sculpts as Hamlet, supported by fine actors from an array of backgrounds, from combat, reenactment, panto, comedy, musical theatre, high drama and education. Simon de Bell, Theatre Company Chair, said Ad Lib, founded by a few friends more than 25 years ago, has become synonymous with unique outdoor productions held in iconic island locations. The play is being performed on June the 23rd to the 25th, with the gates opening at 5:30 and the show starting at 6:30 each evening. Tickets from Northwood House on 293642. Take a chair, pack a picnic and join Ad Lib Theatre at the Court of Ellesmere.
And now we're going on to some of the letters. The first one, misinformation right here in the UK, and this is from a C. Peterman from Gunville. Bob Seeley says there are worse things to lie about than Partygate for Boris Johnson, if he did. That was LBC Radio on Sunday. There we have it. Our Ireland MP is clearly happy that our country is led by a serial liar. Words fail me. We talk about misinformation coming out of Russia, but here in the UK we have a Conservative government busily feeding us the same, claiming our Prime Minister led the country on the fight against COVID. Those not suffering with selective amnesia will recall that Boris Johnson couldn't be bothered to turn up to the first 5 Cobra meetings on the pandemic. Instead, he was choosing wallpaper, participating in a burgeoning Downing Street party culture, and according to his chief advisor at the time, writing a book. Fortunately, our country was able to rely on brave and dedicated doctors, nurses, key workers and scientists working at the cutting edge of vaccine development. At the next general election, will the British public be stupid enough to still vote for an untrustworthy political mafia masquerading as a financially prudent and competent government?
Royal Reflections. I'm not a royalist, but I do love the splendour and the glamour of it all. Margaret had a chance to be more relaxed than the Queen, who has carried a more cautious, monotonous look throughout her years. I guess we all start to feel more comfortable in certain clothes, don't we? I love a pair of dark slacks from M&S, and our Eddie has the good fortune to have a slim waist, despite the amount he eats. Honestly, if you could buy a fridge with a door lock or alarm, I'd buy it. I bought some coronation chicken, to get into the swing of it, and before I even think about making some sandwiches with it, it's gone. The gannet has nicked a lot of it. I swear he thinks I buy food just so he can stand in the fridge and eat it. Anyway, where was I? Oh yes, with all due respect to anyone who's done the same thing for a long time, be it being married or worked in the same job, foster cared kids, being a nursery or a teacher, I wish them well, and longevity needs recognition. So in that respect, I'll raise a glass to Elizabeth. After that, I really do think we need to reconsider the role of the monarchy in the country, which has allowed the government to replace welfare benefits with food banks and diminish the value of the one true asset the country has that anyone can use, the NHS.
Has rail route extension hit the buffers? This is from Richard Ferraro, Bonchurch. To me, the most important passenger ferry link to the Isle of Wight is the Fast Cat from Portsmouth Harbour to Ryde Pierhead. That's because the Fast Cat links directly to the main line railway station at Portsmouth Harbour, with rail links to London and other destinations. Next to Portsmouth Harbour railway station is Portsmouth bus station. At Ryde Pierhead, the Fast Cat connects with the Isle of Wight's one remaining railway. Currently, the Island Line serves the east side of the island only, as far south as Shanklin only. Less than 2 years ago, a comprehensive feasibility study was undertaken for Isle of Wight Council by London-based Centre for Economics and Business Research. That work, funded by the DFT's Restoring Your Railways project, established the business case for rebuilding railways on the island. 2 Isle of Wight railway projects were technically feasible. Both showed a positive business case for investment. They were a new rail link from Ryde Pierhead to Newport via Sandown and Blackwater, and the extension of the Island Line southwards to Ventnor via Wroxall. On the back of SEBA's work, a funding bid for the next stage of development work was submitted by the Isle of Wight Council to the DFT. The bid document included a foreword by Bob Seeley MP, extolling the virtues of the proposal. However, since then nothing has happened. It appears that the Isle of Wight's rail extension projects have literally hit the buffers. If true, this outcome is most disappointing. Speaking bluntly, if the current government wants to demonstrate a commitment to the Isle of Wight's economy, its future and levelling up, the DFT should fund this bid. Meanwhile, I respectfully ask both Wendy Pereira, Chief Executive, Isle of Wight Council, and Bob Seeley, MP, to report in these pages on the current status of the project. If the DFT route for funding is dead in the water, what alternative funding sources are being pursued, as promised, to achieve these essential rail links?
What a friendly local welcome. This is from Ron Radley. My daughter and I always enjoy visiting from the mainland. It's a relief to arrive, anticipating a real break for a few days. But this time the mood changed as soon as we drove into Yarmouth. A tyre burst. However, thoughts of clearing out luggage, etc. to get to the spare wheel had no sooner begun to change our mood when the first person to appear was asked, "Can I help?" Help, he proceeded to jack up the car, switch wheels, etc. with amazing efficiency. Turned out his career was as a motor mechanic. Had it been an Olympic event, clearly he'd have taken gold. He had been due to meet his son for a drink when he came across us our burst tyre. Trouble sorted. I insisted on buying in the first round, but he flatly refused. Been a pleasure to help. Have a good holiday, he said, and he strode off. Among the island's attractions, apart from the pace of life, is the friendliness everywhere. But this was something else. If our breakdown Boy Scout sees this, thanks again.
Cowboys in charge. That's another letter from C. Peterman from Gunville. A prudent government fixes the roof while the sun shines in preparation for a change in the weather. Unfortunately, our government has spent the last decade ripping all the tiles off the roof. Now, with the rainy season upon us, the roof is leaking like a sieve, with buckets everywhere, and to top it all, they have the barefaced cheek to say they are the builders to repair the damage. High time to show these cowboys the door, I'd say.
It's goodbye from Paul.
And it's goodbye from Lynn. The In Touch programme follows. Matchday Mayhem, the Great Outdoors. Visually impaired Liverpool Football Club fans Dave Williams and Aj Ahmed were at the Stade de France last weekend as Liverpool prepared to meet Real Madrid in the Champions League final. News headlines have been dominated by the mayhem that unfolded there, including the use of tear gas and dangerous overcrowding. The two tell us what happened to them whilst caught up in it. A lot of the great outdoors can be quite inaccessible, especially if you are completely blind. Nature is often synonymous with visual beauty, and with the exception of birds, a lot of wildlife can be rather quiet. We speak to two avid visually impaired naturists about how they create access opportunities for themselves. Andrew Hesser has recently appeared on BBC Two's Gardener's World, and he shares his top tips for introducing a little more gardening and nature into your life. Andy Shipley has dedicated himself to the idea of involving other visually impaired people in all aspects of enjoying the natural world. Under his organisation called Natural Inclusion, Andy provides disability inclusion training to heritage sites and parks and facilitates workshops to encourage people to experience nature with more senses than just sight. Andy tells us about some of the projects he's worked on. Birds and gardening. Unlike most of the natural world, birds are quite easy to enjoy with a visual impairment because, well, they can be rather noisy. Martin and Jackie Brown invited us into their garden and share some of their enthusiasms for gardening and, you guessed it, birds. Natalie Doig also joins us. Natalie is partially sighted and enjoys taking photographs of birds and other wildlife because it allows her to zoom in and discover details she wasn't aware of before. She tells us about her techniques and shares her top tips. We also review some bird identification apps that can be downloaded onto your smartphone.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Good evening. Later in the programme, the great outdoors. How to get the best from it with poor sight or none, whether it's tending your garden or a walk in the woods. But first, the story which dominated the news over the weekend. The mayhem which surrounded what should have been a great sporting occasion, but turned into a nightmare for many who were there.
The issue which I saw was they were checking tickets on the outer perimeter, and there was just too many bodies there. There were thousands of fans all in a bottleneck, and they weren't checking the tickets quickly enough. There weren't enough bodies checking the tickets. And then there was mayhem. There were people without tickets who were turning back and coming through the crowd. Then there were people getting angry, a lot of pushing and shoving, and it became an issue.
Chris Sutton describing the scenes outside the Stade de France in Paris as Liverpool prepared to meet Real Madrid to decide the European Champions Cup. Well, as I listened to that on 5 Live, I was wondering what it would be like to be caught up in that as a blind person. I don't need to wonder any longer. Liverpool fans Dave Williams and Aj Ahmed were there, and they've contacted us about their experience. Dave, just explain briefly what happened to you.
So as sports fans, obviously, we're well used to big crowds, So we arrived at the stadium at around 6:30, 20 to 7, at which point the build-up of crowds really got to very uncomfortable levels. People pressed against your back. You were kind of sandwiched between people. But at that point, I think we thought, well, there's still enough time here to get in, even though it was chaotic and we were very squashed. We managed to get round to our designated gate that was stated on the ticket, Gate Z. We weren't able to get in there. It began to feel really unsafe, and the only way for us to get out of that situation was to escape by climbing over a fence. We then tried to use a disabled entrance. And it was at that point that I became aware that my friend, Adju, you're going to hear from in a moment, he started coughing and somebody said it's tear gas. And I managed to get my scarf up and around my face to protect myself. We eventually heard via social media, because there were no public announcements really telling the crowd what was going on. We heard via social media that the kickoff had been delayed. Eventually, we gained access to the stadium, I think at about 9:20 when we got to our seats. Everyone was really quite shell-shocked. The whole thing just kind of fell apart, really. What was supposed to be an amazing day out was just ended up being a nightmare.
Aj, Dave just mentioned that you were pepper sprayed there. I mean, when did you realise what had happened? Did you have the faintest idea what it was?
I didn't really know what it was. We were in the disabled bit because the entrance to Z was absolutely packed. So we thought we'd try the disabled entrance because it looked a little bit, less chaotic. I remember being behind a load of wheelchairs. I was slightly in front of Dave, and next minute I just started coughing and sneezing. It just got right down my throat. I just turned around to him, mate, what's that? And, he said it was tear gas. But by that time, it was a bit too late, so I couldn't put my scarf over me. And it just affected me for quite some minutes, to be honest.
And Ange, did any of the authorities, the police, the stewards, the officials, take account of the fact that you couldn't see and you were with someone else who couldn't see?
Not at all. I mean, we both had our canes where we were bottlenecked into an area where it was a really, really tight crush. There was police on hands just next to the fences. Everyone was sort of pleading with them, look, there's kids here, these two lads are blind, can you do something? They just didn't want to know, and even when I was getting helped to climb over the fence, it was quite a high fence, and they still weren't helping. And in the end, a couple of Liverpool fans had to break down the fence to allow Dave to pass through and just escape that crush.
Dave, what was the scariest moment?
I think the moment that Aj just described, I had people pressed up against the back of me, the front of me, and of course, that's quite triggering, Peter. All our minds go back, obviously, to the Leppings Lane in 1989. And so you do worry at that point, that something like that could happen. I think in that moment, though, you're sort of numb and you don't realise the full horror of it until afterwards. And it was when I got to my seat and I was receiving messages from home from, friends and family members asking, are you okay? I sort of thought, oh my God, I might not have been,
And Andrew, I gather you go to even more regularly than Dave. I mean, I go to football a lot as well. I have not often felt threatened. I just wonder how unusual this circumstance was for you.
It was highly unusual. I've been going over 25 years. I've been a season ticket holder, both home and away. And I've never experienced anything like that. It's probably been the most sort of horrific experience as a football fan that I've had to endure. Even just going back to Dave's point, about feeling numb. And I can certainly echo those sentiments, because I actually even remember when we actually got out over the fences and we were heading towards our turn. So I remember one lad turning to us and saying, it's not worth it, lads, it's not worth it, don't go in there. But again, we were sort of quite numb, going, now, we need to get into the game. And it's only now when you look back and you just realise sort of what you've gone through and, what he must have seen and maybe been through, even through Hillsborough. And he was right, it wasn't worth it.
We'd paid extra so that we could go on the day and travel back in time for the parade to celebrate the other cups that Liverpool won this season. And we just got back, and I think both of us just felt so numb that we just decided, you know what, we're not going to go to that parade. And we'd shared the cost of a taxi back from Liverpool to Worcester, just because we needed a bit of normality.
And after all that, I think you didn't even get a commentary, did you?
No,
we didn't. No.
We asked as we went in, didn't we? And then we asked again at half time, and they just said, we'll try and find out. And there was absolutely nothing forthcoming. And I'm aware that also happened for other blind fans who were there on the evening. And of course, this is the biggest game in club football. So why it's so difficult to make that available is beyond me. And we were both in Kiev in 2018, and we had commentary actually on FM, which meant we could use our own radios, which would have been helpful, in terms of communicating safety information, but didn't take an FM radio because it wasn't on FM. It was on the designated radios that we didn't receive.
Well, commiserations, lads, not only on the awful things that happened to you, but also on the result as well. But thanks for coming on to tell In Touch about it. Now, I've a friend who told me that after 12 years living in his current house, he still wasn't sure of the way round his garden. Now, this is a rather extreme example, but it does suggest that the great outdoors can be a bit of a challenge, especially if you're totally blind. With the exception of birds and bees, much of nature is pretty quiet, and a lot of its appeal to those who love it gets expressed in terms of its visual beauty, colour, construction and so on. Not all blind people feel like this. This is Lord Blunkett explaining to me in his beloved Peak District why he is drawn to wide open spaces.
I love being outside because there are always sounds, there are always smells, there are always natural elements that actually make life worthwhile. And quite often I drive people mad by saying, I'm just going to pop out, because of course they're looking out of windows and they're seeing birds and they're seeing vegetation and they're seeing what's going on. And the way you can feel it and experience it is being outside.
Lord Blunkett as we strolled down a country lane. Well, today we're looking at ways in which more blind and partially sighted people could get the same enjoyment out of flora and fauna and get to appreciate what the poets like to call nature's bounty. And not just plants and trees, but wildlife as well. One man who is very much dedicated to this idea is blind gardener Andrew Hesser. He's on the line now, but first, this is Andrew in his Falmouth garden describing one of his favourite gardening tasks when he was featured on BBC Two's Gardener's World.
This is my pride and joy, the broad beans. When they first germinate and start growing, when they're 15 centimetres tall, the stems are round, and then I can instantly know when I'm weeding which is a broad bean and which isn't because of the shape of the stems. They've got the texture of the stems, which evolves as the plants grow, and then you've got the aroma. And it's got a kind of very, very earthy, not very sweet smell, but I just intoxicated by it. And again, when I'm weeding, if I'm not sure if it's a weed or a young broad bean plant, just brush my hand on the foliage and smell it, and that's just lovely.
That was Andrew with Toby Buckland on Gardener's World. Andrew, I'm not one of the world's greatest gardeners, it has to be admitted, but you've struck a chord with me. I love broad beans. Are you more of a veg man or a flowers man as well?
Mostly veg, but in the last sort of 18 months I've started exploring because I come from the basis of what is going to stimulate my senses. Because I can't see, hundreds of types of different flowers, I focus on texture and aromas.
That's why I asked you that, because those poets I was talking about, often concentrate on the beauty of flowers. And I just wondered what you get from them.
Let's think of some examples. Last year I started putting in tulips. By May, they're about 30 centimetres high. And I just feeling the stems. The stems are nice and smooth, and then the floppy leaves up to the shape of the bulbs, really. So it's a very tactile experience. And then hydrangeas, because hydrangeas are like small footballs. As they go over in the autumn, they all crisp up. So you've got a very large, crispy, textured thing, really.
I mean, you lost your sight. You could see as a child and you've lost sight since, and I'm wondering how you adapted to that situation, because I know that you gave up gardening at one point, didn't you?
Yes, I did. I wasn't really much of a gardener before I lost my sight. I just sort of dabbled, and I sort of struggled when I did lose my sight to kind of get into a bit of gardening, but I think I was treating it as if it was like a sighted experience, and it was a chore. That was gardening to me. But then in the last sort of 4 years, I suddenly realised that, I don't need to go out into the countryside all the time. Sometimes it can be daunting and you can get lost and there are no tactile maps around. But in the garden, I thought, well, I can just grow a plant and tend it and look after it. And then that's how I hit on growing loads and loads and loads of broad bean plants. And it's like walking out in the countryside, walking through the rows of those. And I don't look upon it as gardening, really. I look at it as growing plants, and that's where I start.
It was the whole business of getting started that I wanted to ask you about. What would you say to people who'd like to have a go, who are listening to this but just don't know where to begin?
Beans are a good place to start, but you can just start with a small number of plants. That's the best way to do it, and choose some seeds that are relatively large. People might well say, I fancy doing lettuce and carrots and things, but I find those seeds that you get hundreds and hundreds of tiny seeds in a packet, and they can be a right fiddle, and then you go and spill them over the tabletop, and then you get frustrated. So start with larger seeds. I mean, the ultimate is the beans. The broad bean seeds are massive. So I never sow anything directly into the garden either. I always put things into tiny pots, and that enables me to keep a track of them, to label them, to keep them watered.
Well, when it comes to actually planting the seeds, you're not averse to using the latest technology.
I'm interested today in the runner bean packets, and there are two tiny little packets which must be the lavender, hundreds of lavender seeds, and a salad crop. I'm now going to use Super Sense to differentiate between these two types.
I'm reading text. Please point your camera to a text. Runner Bean Armstrong 45 seeds.
Okay, now that we've scanned the label, I can go to the top of the way around screen and confirm what's written on that label. But more interesting, if I swipe right twice, then we get to edit, where I can add or delete more information.
Create way tag. Description.
Now I could go back to either of those two labels I've written and add more information. You can use voice input, and more recently I've got a Bluetooth Braille keyboard, and I've been entering Braille into that edit box to make my labels.
So what did you do before apps came along, Andrew?
Yeah, I relied on my memory mostly. I found labelling and being able to read my C packet so liberating and such an important boost to my mental health, really, due to the independence it gives me. Because I was actually using two apps there, one to read the C packet, so it's a scanner, and then the other one is a labelling app.
Of course, this is all quite esoteric in a way, but there's a lot of physical labour, isn't there, involved, and quite a lot of tricky tasks to perform, climbing up, lopping things off. Are you happy with all of that?
Yeah, I mean, my appearance on Gardener's World is up on iPlayer for the rest of the year, and in there I sort of show how I use canes and paving slabs around the garden.
Right.
So there are lots of different tricks and techniques, so don't be scared of just whacking a cane in somewhere to mark the end of a row. And I don't use low canes, I use tall ones. Just reach out my arm and go, I know where that cane is, so I just step to the left and I'm not going to step on any precious plants.
Right.
Can I talk a little bit about some of the things that haven't gone quite so successfully?
Well, tell me about some of your disasters if you want to.
Well, one is digging a massive hole to put quite a sizable tree root ball in, and I'd finished digging it, put my spade down, stepped back and fell in it.
Andrew, you're keen on introducing other blind people not just to gardening but to enjoying the countryside generally, aren't you?
Yeah. I heard about a project called Sensing Nature. This was about 4 or 5 years ago, and they were looking for participants, and we ended up going on a conference and meeting other visually impaired people. We were sort of swapping stories about how difficult it is and how there's quite a lack of opportunities to kind of learn about nature and explore nature due to access and lack of information.
Let's explore this a bit more, because I want to bring in another guest who's dedicated himself to this idea of involving other visually impaired people in all aspects of enjoying the natural world. Andy Shipley has a long-term background in projects which promote sustainability. For example, he worked on aiming to make the 2012 Olympics and Paralympics the most sustainable ever. Andy, just tell me a bit more about this project, Sensing Nature, and some of the projects which have grown out of it.
The Nature Sense work that I run, which is this idea of bringing everybody into contact with nature through their non-visual senses, really started back in 2014. But I had a call from Dr. Sarah Bell at Exeter University to talk about her project, Sensing Nature, and to see if I was interested in being involved with that. And that really enabled us to step back and just go beyond the idea of how to make nature more accessible and inclusive for people with sight loss. So working with countryside organisations, natural heritage organisations, to really help them understand how to better explain and describe the land their visitors are enjoying, but through more multi-sensory language and experiences. That led to a number of other projects which culminated last year in what was called the Restoring Landscapes for Social Inclusion project, which was hosted at Westonbirt National Arboretum in Gloucestershire. The Sensing Nature element of that was to train 4 visually impaired people to volunteer as guides to lead sensory walks around the Westonbirt Arboretum.
So just to get this right, this is blind people actually guiding. It almost sounds like turning what normally happens completely on its head.
That's the whole point. It's disrupting people's perceptions of who should be leading guided walks, what you should experience on a guided walk, and experience the Arboretum through a number of lenses, as I said, really, that perhaps they wouldn't have normally expected to.
Right, well, that's really intriguing. I mean, I'm more an animal lover than a plant lover, but with the exception of birds, it's very hard to pursue an interest in wild animals and wildlife. Any thoughts or tips?
Yeah, so one thing I'd really recommend, If you have access to somewhere in nature where you can visit regularly and spend maybe half an hour or more just in situ, and you'll hear the birds, but the birds will gradually adapt to your presence. And then you'll notice when other things come along, because the birds will react, their calls will change, and you'll know that if a fox is passing, then something's triggered an alarm call within the birds. The birds will tell you.
Those are all good tips. We would welcome your views, listeners, including people who've pursued an interest in birds and bird song. You can email in touch at bbc.co.uk. You can leave voice messages on 0161 836 1338 or go to our website bbc.co.uk/in touch. Thanks to Andrew Hesser and Andy Shipley. From me, Peter Wight, producer Beth Hemmings and studio manager Nat Stokes. Goodbye.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Good evening. We're always saying on this programme that we want you to dictate the content, and tonight's edition is a classic case in point. No use saying it if we don't mean it, and your responses after last week's In Touch was very clear. More nature. Well, last week we concentrated largely on gardening, and we asked for your own techniques and tips for visually impaired gardeners. But also we wanted to know more about your relationship with the outdoors generally, and particularly how you got up close to wildlife. Well, you didn't disappoint us, you never do. So tonight we brought together some of you. Martin and Jackie Brown live in the small town of Maharagh, just a few miles from Belfast. Martin's devoted to his garden. One of Jackie's biggest interests is listening to birdsong. And later, Beth Hemmings has been looking at some of the apps that can help you identify the birds you're hearing. Meanwhile, Natalie Doig is from Biggleswade in Bedfordshire, and her solution to getting up close to nature, despite deteriorating sight, is photography. And they all join us to tell us about their enthusiasms and how they pursue them. Let's start with you, Martin. You're in your garden, I think, as we speak, which I know is your pride and joy. Just describe, first of all, the garden itself to me. It's quite a big one.
Yeah, it's just quite a big garden, Peter. It's probably somewhere in the region, maybe 500 or 600 square metres. And then, of course, I must at least have maybe a dozen varieties of apple trees, pear trees, plum trees.
Well, let's come to the apple trees first, because I know that they are something that you've got a passion for.
Yes.
And you planted these, yeah?
Oh, yes. I bought them from nurseries in England, and I planted them. I think they're maybe about 5 years old now. They have been producing fruit for about, 2, maybe possibly 3 years.
Right. Now, you had quite a lot of sight at one time, now very little. Yes. How have you adapted your methods of dealing with these trees? Because there's quite a lot of technical stuff to do, isn't there?
Yes, there's quite a bit, Peter. I suppose I use my mobile phone quite a bit now. I use it for labelling, the Way Around app. I use a couple of apps for scanning the likes of my package of seeds. And, if it wasn't for that sort of technology, I would find it quite difficult, and possibly in some ways maybe I couldn't do some of it, I think. Well,
because some of the techniques are quite tricky. Sharp knives are involved, I think.
Yes, I'm into grafting at the moment. I'm not sure what's a good pastime for someone who's severely visually impaired or not, but I've always wanted to try grafting. I would have been a nurseryman, I think. I love plants. I love being around trees. And yes, grafting is quite technical, and you do have to use knives, and, you do have to be extremely careful.
Have you had the odd accident?
Yes, I've had a few, but it doesn't put me off.
And just for those who don't know, what is grafting exactly? And why is it so tricky?
Grafting is you'd have a rootstock, say an M27 or an M26. The number designates how vigorous the tree will grow. And then you have scion, which is the top part of the tree. That is the part that will produce the apples. And you have to take the two, of course, and graft them together. And, of course, that's where the sharp knives come in. You have a lot of different types of grafting.
I guess you're slower, perhaps, because some of the experts on this are really quick, aren't they?
Oh, yes, they would be, they put me to shame, I'm afraid. But I do it as a hobby. I'm not doing it professionally. And I think this year now is my first year to actually do some grafting. And I had, 25%.
That's 25% that take, is that right?
Yeah.
And just in a word, what does this garden mean to you?
It means just a pastime that I can get involved in, and it relaxes me and it gives me a purpose.
OK, stay with us. Let me bring in Natalie Doig, who also got in touch with us about last week's programme. Now, you have some vision, Natalie, albeit it's blurred and lacks depth, your description, but your way of getting up close to nature is by using photography. Just explain what you do.
Yes, my vision, I describe it as being a bit like a Monet painting. That if anybody's, has seen a Monet painting, there's very little detail. And I've been like that all my life. So when digital photography came along about 15 years ago now, I thought, well, maybe I should give this a go, because photography up until that point really was quite difficult for me. And digital photography has just changed the way I see the natural world, because I can go out with my camera or even my phone and I can take pictures of things and then zoom in and be able to see stuff in detail. And for the last sort of 10 years, I've been, trying different lenses and different cameras and just really immersing myself in nature and taking lots of photographs and helping me to see the world and then share that with others.
Now, presumably flowers and plants are a bit more cooperative than wildlife. Do you prefer to do that?
Primarily, yes, flowers and plants and, to a certain degree, buildings and people are a lot easier to take photographs of, in that sense that you know where they are and hopefully they're not going to move. What I discovered very sort of early on was that just by complete serendipity, I'd be taking a photograph, let's just say, of a dandelion, and I'd get home and there would be an insect on that image. And I hadn't even seen it while I was taking the photograph. When that first happened, I thought, well, why don't I have a go? Why don't I, take my time when I go out? It was interesting that you were just talking about, things being slower, when you have to take things slower, I think, sometimes when you're visually impaired. And taking that time to use my ears to listen for buzzing or for bird song if I want to take photographs of birds. I mean, I take hundreds and thousands probably of images, and there might only be one or two that are in focus and are useful to use, but I don't care. For me, it's all part of being out there in nature and listening to it and feeling that I'm part of it.
But you are
yes.
keen on photographing birds as well, but they don't stand still and pose for you, do they? So how do you cope with snapping them?
So it gets Oh, we just heard some birds then, it sounded like.
I don't think this was completely planned. Hold on there, Natalie. I think Jackie can possibly, from indoors, explain what's going on. What is happening, Jackie?
I have a bird clock in our living room, and it just gave one of its hourly calls. Every hour there's a different bird goes off. You can buy this clock from the RSPB, and every hour it emits a different bird. They're all MP3 recordings, and there are pictures of each bird on the clock.
Yeah.
And that was the great
hang on, don't. Oh, I was going to try and stop you saying, and I wanted to see if Natalie knew what it was. Did you?
That one, I'm not sure. I'll be honest with you. I'm not brilliant at identifying bird song. But what it does help me do is kind of judge the direction that the bird's in.
Right.
And maybe if I'm lucky and it's winter and there aren't leaves on the trees, I might be able to see the bird and get some photographs of it.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to try and make that bit of identification easier for me. We'll come back to you in a minute, Natalie. Let me just stay with Jackie for a moment. Photography not really an option for you, being totally blind, but birdsong is. Just explain at the moment where you are in the brown garden.
Well, I'm actually sitting on the sunny seat outside, and it's fairly quiet out here. We call it the sunny seat. It's just a bench, and it catches the sun. I love to come out here and sit just listening to the bird sounds.
And apart from your clock, how do you identify the birds that you're actually hearing?
I've got a couple of apps. If I want to capture bird song, I just sit where I am, but it's quite difficult to get the ID of the birds from the trees.
OK,
so
well,
I just guess.
We're trying to help with that. We asked producer Beth Hemmings to give us a bit of a rundown on what's available on the app front and which are particularly good for visually impaired bird enthusiasts.
I'm at Peel Park in Salford. I have 2 bird identifier apps downloaded on my smartphone, BirdNet and Bird Up. So both of these apps claim to be able to tell me what bird I'm hearing above me by recording a snippet of its song. So I wanted to only try out apps today that are free, and these are the 2 that came up as the top results in my Android App Store. So I'm going to get as close as I can to where I can hear the bird call.
BirdNet, bird sound identification. Recording stopped. Click the select button at the bottom center. Click Analyze to submit the recording. Detected species ranked by probability. Coal-tit. Periparis atta, likely.
So BirdNet is telling me that it's the coal-tit that I'm hearing, and next to the results there's a little arrow button.
Unlabeled, button.
Helpfully unlabelled. So let's double click on that to see where it takes us.
Loading. Coal-tit. Wikipedia. Macaulay Library. Airbird.
OK, so it allows you to learn more information about the coal-tit from 3 different sources that appear as little buttons at the bottom of the screen. So this is an app that's developed by the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, and it can identify around 1,000 different species of bird, but the developers are planning to expand it to around 6,000. This app also has an Explore Your Area feature. This uses your phone's location signal, and it tells you what birds are most commonly heard in your area. But what's quite good about this is it's specific for the time of year. So, for example, it's June, it's summertime, and Salford's most common birds are...
Common wood pigeon. Eurasian blackbird. White wagtail. Common chaffinch. European robin.
Now let's have a look at how BirdNet compares to the other app I have downloaded, Bird Up. So Bird Up can identify around 100 different bird calls from around 60 of the species that are most commonly found in gardens, parks and woodlands around the UK. So I'm in exactly the same spot.
Bird Up.
You actually have to press a button to begin recording on this one.
Unlabeled, button. Matches. Blackbird alarm call, match, 43%.
OK, so apparently I'm hearing a blackbird alarm call, which unfortunately is not a match to what BirdNet suggested. But quite a good feature of this app is it has a section where you can listen to samples of songs and calls from the birds that you're most likely going to hear in your garden or your local park.
Birds. Selected. Blackcap song. A varied song of 20 to 40 short fluty notes, often confused with garden warbler. Sample.
So both of these apps that I've randomly selected have given me different results. It could be a blackbird alarm call, it could be a coal-tit, or it could be both. That is pretty plausible. There are so many bird apps out there, and unfortunately I've not come across any that are fully accessible or, solely developed for bird lovers who are blind or have low vision. I have heard of other apps though which do have some good access features. One is called Chirp, which is only available on iPhones, and Bird Nerd. I'm really quite fond of that name. Right, well, I'm going to pop back into this bush and see if there's any more birds that I can identify.
Right, that's left Beth in the bushes. Jackie, I'm just wondering how many of those you use, or do you have any others to add?
Yeah, we've tried Bird Up, which is quite good because I've discovered a new bird that's been around for a while in our garden, and it's the goldfinch. It's a lovely sound. So I've got a nice little app called Birds of Britain, which lets you know all the different sounds of the birds, and it gives you a description of them in terms of, its habitat and the Latin name for the bird. But it doesn't identify the bird. I have great difficulty identifying birds because I'm often quite away from the trees where they are.
And that seems to be the problem in a way, synchronising, hearing them and then checking them. By the time you work out which app to try, which phone you're on, isn't that all a bit difficult?
Yeah, it's not the most foolproof way because a lot of the apps just have the word button. They're not labelled, and it can be quite difficult. And then if you want to listen to one particular bird, it could be that, you're going to get a lot of other birds in the background, so it doesn't really know what to tell you.
Can I just nip back to Natalie? Because I think you used Chirp, don't you?
Yes, I haven't used it recently, but my memory of using it is that again, it's not one where you can record what you're listening to. So it sounds a bit like the Bird of Britain or British Birds one that Jackie just mentioned, which I know my mum uses sometimes. It's one where you have to have an inkling of what the bird is you want to listen to. And then that's great. You can select the bird and you can listen to its call and you can hear some more information about it. I have to say, Beth, it was definitely a blackbird singing its little heart out in the background of her. Yeah. And then I think it was doing its alarm call, which sounds very similar to a cold tip because it's a kind of dee, 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 dee
That's
noise.
right. Yeah.
My head's in a whirl about all this. Are you still with us, Martin, over by your Apple?
I am indeed. Yes, Peter.
Because you get involved in this, because you've got Android and and Jackie's got iPhone, hasn't she? So presumably there's a sort of competition going on between who's got the best app.
Yes, I wouldn't be as interested. I do love birds, being in the garden but I downloaded that app, Bird Up, and it is quite good for identifying birds. I find it quite useful.
There's clearly a lot more we need to find out about this. So any listeners who can give us any more information, we should continue to try and find out what the best way to do it is. Natalie, if I can come back to you, because you've been to Australia where there is some pretty exotic bird life. What were your highlights there?
Oh, it was amazing. The birds over there are so different to here. They're bright, they're colourful, they're big, and they're incredibly noisy, the majority of them. And they also have fantastic names. So my highlight was seeing a superb fairy wren. And it was a small bird, but luckily it was right in front of me at a wildlife park that I went to. And my friends who were with me were like, look, it's there. And they were able to show me exactly where it was. And it's bright blue. And then the lorikeets, the rainbow lorikeets are, again, another of my favourites because they're just so bright. It was much easier to be able to photograph birds in Australia than it is over here.
Right. I imagine, Jackie, you're feeling a bit envious, although, how do I know? You may have done something even more exotic.
No, I haven't. I love birds, but the irony is I don't like to get too near them. I don't like the flapping and stuff. I'm happy to sit on my sunny seat outside and let the birds do their thing in the trees or on the telegraph poles. That's fine by me. Just don't come near me.
Just one final thing. Again, I want to go back to Natalie, because I think people with some sight, the whole business of what you can achieve with photography, the way it can give you definition, sounds quite exciting. I mean, what would you say to people who perhaps haven't tried that or have only nibbled at it?
Oh, definitely give it a go. There are so many different techniques that you can use. I mean, I talked about using my hearing to help me identify direction of where things are, but also just going out with someone else. So my dad is a really good spotter for me, and so is my husband. And then even if it's maybe wanting to take photographs of stuff that isn't moving, like plants and flowers, there's some great techniques where you basically use string. So you tie a piece of string to, say, the rose bush or the apple tree that you want to take a photograph of, and you use that string as a way so that you don't lose where that thing is that you want to take a picture of. And then with modern computers today, you can enlarge that image, you can zoom in on what you want. So if you've got some useful vision and you're able to use that type of technology, it really makes a difference. I didn't realise, I'm 48 now, so I was about 40 when I realised that birds' eyes, they have these little like stitches around them, and it looks like their eyes have been embroidered onto their faces, and I had never seen that. It is absolutely amazing, and it's something I would never have seen before if I didn't have digital photography.
Did you know that, Jackie?
No, I didn't.
Nor did I. Well, look, we've learned an awful lot today, and there's much more. So we'd like to keep this going, and I would like to invite people to tell us more about what they do, either in terms of gardening or indeed bird watching or following wildlife. That's it for today. Many thanks to the Browns, Martin and Jackie, for inviting us into their garden, and Natalie Doig for giving us a sound peep at her photographs. And pursuing our theme of access, very shortly we're planning a programme about museums and how close up you can get to things there. Tell us your experiences, satisfactory and not so satisfactory. Email in touch at bbc.co.uk. Leave your voice messages on 0161 836 1338. Or you can go to our website, bbc.co.uk/in touch. From me, Peter Wight, producer Beth Hemmings, still in the bushes, and studio managers Colin Sutton and Jonathan Esp. Goodbye.
Sight for Wight newsletter, May 2022. Spotlight on John. Meet trustee Jeannie. Living well with sight loss. Save the date. Front cover shows our new trustee Jeannie standing in her garden.
Hello everyone and welcome to our latest newsletter. As always, it's full of interesting and useful articles that I hope you will enjoy. The recent holiday for members to Norton Grange, Yarmouth, was a great success, enjoyed by everyone. The staff there were wonderful hosts, and the members of staff and volunteers accompanying the party made sure it was a great time. Our grateful thanks to them. Several of those on the holiday have said it made such a difference to their confidence. We are planning another holiday at Norton in the autumn. In partnership with the RNIB, we are now running the Living Well with Sight Loss. Its modules on planning daily finances, equipment that is available, and being out and about. Ruth, one of our trustees, is running the course with the benefit of our own lived experience. We are now 2 months into running the sensory contract with our new Wight Sense team. The office space has been reorganised and the VI and HI teams integrated. Each member of staff has written their own article, so you will be able to discover a little more about them and their areas of responsibility. On the 20th of September, there is going to be a touch tour of the production of The Lion King at the Mayfair Theatre, Southampton. Members of the production team will guide members round the set, the props and the costumes. It sounds fascinating. We hope you can join us. My thanks, as always, to our supportive staff and our volunteers for their generous donation of their time. We could not manage without you. Thank you.
Hello, this is Lisa reading the CEO update. I'm delighted to be able to report the launch of the Sight for Wight One Wish campaign and to officially welcome the Wight Sense team. On Thursday the 19th of May, I was so pleased to be able to launch the One Wish campaign with my visit to Blackbush Airfield to fly a plane by myself. My instructor Mike took us off and then I took complete control of the plane. Of course, I could not read the dials to check anything, but I very quickly learned how sensitive the throttle for pitch and roll was and the feet pedals for the yaw. We flew for a full 30 minutes before heading back to the runway. Mike asked, would I like to try to fly within the range of the runway myself? When I said, what runway, I don't think he could get the controls back quick enough. The campaign is for anyone to come forward and tell us what is your one wish that you would really like to do but cannot because of your sight loss. We will try everything we can to fulfil that wish, so please come forward and tell us. I would warn anybody driving around the island, however. One of our trustees wants to drive a car. That's her wish, so beware. Finally, I would like to offer a very warm official welcome to the Wight Sense team, who joined us on the 1st of April to undertake the Isle of Wight sensory rehabilitation contract. That's Karen, Paula, Mark and Lindsley joined Karen to complete the team. And I'm delighted to report we already feel we've been working together for a lot longer than just 2 months. With warmest regards to everybody, Lisa.
Members' activities. Weekly. Monday, swimming at Medina Leisure Centre, Newport. Term time only, between 1:30pm and 2:30pm. The cost is £5 and £2.50 transport.
Wednesday, coffee and chat at Millbrook House between 10am and 11:30am. All are welcome to join us for a coffee and cake. The cost is £1 and the group is open to all, not just members.
Thursdays, mix and mingle at Millbrook House between 10:30 and 2pm. Planned activities including crafts, quizzes and entertainment. The cost to join is £3 per week, plus £2.50 for transport if required.
Monthly. First Tuesday of the month, God's Hill coffee morning at the Old Smithy, God's Hill, between 10:30am and 12pm. Everyone is welcome.
The second Tuesday of the month, Our Place Community Cafe at West Wight Sports and Community Centre, Mower Place, Freshwater. Our volunteer John will be there with any help or advice. It is open between 10:30am and 12:30pm. They also meet on second Monday of the month at the Totland Christ Church.
Second Tuesday of the month, Lunch Club is open to all and is held at various locations across the Isle of Wight. We provide transport where possible. These lunches are proving popular.
Second Wednesday of the month, Audio Book Group, held at Millbrook House between 2pm and 3pm. This group is free to attend.
Last Friday of the month, Striders is for members who enjoy walking. The route is normally around 5 miles, held at various locations across the island and finishing with a pub lunch.
Last Sunday of the month, Golf at Westridge Golf Centre Ride. Members enjoy 45 minutes on the driving range with an instructor available to help with complete novice to those playing regular.
Horse riding sadly was cancelled, but a new venue is being sought. Further details will be announced once details can be confirmed.
Rowing in Yarmouth on a gig, manned by 4 rowers and a cox, 1 oar each. Often rowing from the bridge up to the bridge at the start of Afton Marsh. Really shouted waters.
10-pin bowling at Ryde Super Bowl on the 4th Wednesday of the month between 2pm and 3pm. The cost is £4 for one game. We have people to help with the scoring and general assistance with the bowling.
Millbrook Milers, a monthly social walk for members who want a shorter walk than Striders but still love to walk. The walk will be a minimum of 1 mile and meets between April and October on the second Friday of the month at 10:30am.
Lion King Touch Tour performance. We are pleased to announce we have 20 tickets for our trip to the Mayflower on September the 20th for the audio-described performance. The show starts at 7:30pm, but we are fortunate to be able to have a touch tour before at 5pm, which will last for 30 minutes. It is a hands-on tour of the set, props, costumes, characters, and the visual style of the show. The cost is £65, and if you have a Mayflower card, you can bring a companion for a reduced cost of £45. Travel, including the Red Jet, is included.
The RSYC Open Day. Members are invited to the Royal Victoria Yacht Club at Fishbourne for their open day for people living with disabilities. The charity has been invited for several years now, and members have had a thoroughly enjoyable day. The day is free of charge and normally runs between 10am and 3pm, tide dependent. Tickets are very limited. Please call the office.
News and announcements. We would like to confirm that, as usual, we will not be holding activities during August this year. Many members who usually attend are away visiting friends and family, and equally staff all deserve their well-earned break. There will therefore be no activities from Monday the 1st of August, with the first one back being Striders on Friday the 3rd of September, be it a week later than usual.
Save the date. We will be holding our Members Open Day on Saturday the 10th of September 2022 at the Newport Parish Centre, where we will invite exhibitors of hearing and sight equipment and services to come along together to offer one-to-one help and advice to anyone who would like to attend. Further details to follow.
August 16th, day sailing with the Gwenelli Trust. The Gwenelli Trust makes day sailing safe, fun and open to all on the specially built catamaran Spirit of Scott Bader. The day starts at 10 a.m. and finishes at 4 p.m. Members are asked to bring their own packed lunch. The cost is £35 per person. We have spaces for 6 members to enjoy the freedom of the Solent. If you are interested, please call the office and speak to Susan for more details.
Read by Susan Early
and Chris Kane. Meet Trustee Jeannie.
Have you ever stood at a supermarket delicatessen counter and been asked if you have a hamster at home? Yes, I said. His name is Arnold. Fortunately, I was with my then young sons, who pointed out that the assistant had actually asked if I had a hand scanner. I was born profoundly deaf, so these sorts of conversations are frequent occurrences in my life. Sometimes they're funny, other times embarrassing, and on very rare occasions humiliating. I joined Sight for Wight on the 1st of April, motivated by the sensory service merging under the new name of Wight Sense. Hearing loss is truly a hidden disability. From my own experience, there is very little support available. My hearing loss has sometimes been frustrating and difficult to deal with, but it has never held me back. For the most part, it has offered me enormous advantages. It does not define my life. I perceive myself as a person who is deaf, not a deaf person. I retired 8 years ago after a long and successful career in primary and further education, as a teacher, manager, senior manager, and finally as a principal. I loved teaching and taught all ages from nursery to adults. I particularly enjoyed working in challenging organisations and with students from disadvantaged backgrounds. Following my retirement, I worked as a management consultant, coaching and training staff and senior managers. My own time at school posed significant challenges for me. There was no support and my hearing loss was ignored. I excelled at anything creative at school. I loved to be on stage, and I even won the best ice Christmas cake competition year on year and took my O-level art 3 years early. However, learning to spell every word was hard work, and maths teachers were my absolute worst nightmare. They would turn away from the class, scribble unintelligible nonsense, all while speaking directly to the board. I couldn't hear a thing. I was constantly told I must show my working out. Somehow I got through by developing strategies for survival, such as lip reading and concentrating intently on body language to fill the gaps. In recent years, things have improved, particularly for children in schools. Improving technology in hearing aids has helped me enormously, though unfortunately this is not available to all, as the NHS is not able to offer the best solutions to everybody. I moved to the Isle of Wight 31 years ago, commuting weekly to work on the mainland for the last 12 years of my working life. I often misheard or completely missed announcements on trains, and this made for several unexpectedly long journeys during the years I was commuting. I very much look forward to meeting members and working together in the future.
Art podcast for visually impaired, read by Chris. A podcast recorded at Newport's Key Arts enables partially sighted art lovers to hear what's on show. The work of 4 island artists and 48 others from art group Contemporary British Painting make up the Paradoxes exhibition. Visually impaired visitors are unlikely to enjoy the experience as those who are sighted. and Clark Reynolds wants to change that. Clark is touring major galleries on the South Coast with sighted artist Steve Baker recording art podcasts and hosting discussions. The second series of Clark and Steve's podcast, Art in Sight, focuses on key arts and features a series of short episodes. It is available to download via www.seeingwithoutseeing.com. Clark said, "Current audio provision for visually impaired artists gives a very short description of the work and removes the emotion from experiencing art. Steve and I approach the work like two art-loving friends discussing the content, techniques and personal impact we experience from the art. Our approach has the added bonus of allowing people who can't visit the exhibition to experience it by downloading the podcasts." Ian Whitmore, Visual Arts Manager at Key Arts, said, "We are really excited to welcome Clark and Steve to record their podcast at Key Arts. We constantly strive to find new ways to increase access to the gallery. We're delighted Clark and Steve chose Key Arts for this exciting series of podcasts."
Volunteers Update. National Volunteers Week is an opportunity to thank all our wonderful volunteers who do so much for us throughout the year. This year we are inviting all the volunteers to Millbrook House to say thank you, and hopefully the sun will shine and an enjoyable afternoon will be had by all. I would also take this opportunity to welcome all our new volunteers, and we hope you enjoy your time with us in whatever role you take on, and perhaps learn some new skills too. Volunteers are invaluable to the day-to-day running of the charity, and without them we could not run clubs, attend fundraising events, send out the talking news on a weekly basis, carry on the audio library. The list is endless. And also, I would not enjoy my job if I didn't have wonderful volunteers who are always so willing to help me. Thank you each and every one of you, and I hope you pop along on the 7th of June to Millbrook House for coffee and cake so that we can thank you personally. Susan Early, Volunteers Manager. Warner's, April 2022. Back last year when it was mentioned we should look at booking a holiday for members, I was very nervous and apprehensive on how the mini break would be. But all the nights of worrying and days of stressing about this and that was completely pointless because we had the most enjoyable time away with members and volunteers alike. 20 of us arrived at Norton Grange, Yarmouth on the Monday, and from the time we arrived to the time we left on Wednesday afternoon, we shared laughter, entertainment, activities which members never ever thought they would do again, and fantastic staff from Warner's which made the break so wonderful. Members took part in swimming, archery, shooting, quizzes, boccia and line dancing, to name but a few, whilst enjoying the glorious sunshine we were lucky to have whilst there. The evening entertainment was excellent. We all hit the dance floor, and a few stayed until midnight struck, and had to be persuaded to go to bed by myself and Jasmine. We are not used to staying up that late. When we returned home, I asked everyone that attended to complete a simple questionnaire, and the feedback has been amazing. Here are a few of them. Everyone was supported and made me feel welcome and included. Being able to have a holiday with you meant that we were all able to partake in all events and activities on offer. It has given me the confidence to book a short break on my own later on. Everything was perfect at Yarmouth. Clean rooms, good food. I haven't laughed so much in a long time. A huge success. And because this holiday has been such a success, we have booked another holiday. A short break, the 12th to the 14th of October 2022 at Norton Grange at Yarmouth. The numbers are very limited, and therefore we are going to ask members who are interested to contact me. But if it is oversubscribed, we will have to run a ballot. The cost will once again be around the £125 per person, but once we have names, details can be confirmed nearer the time. Names must be received to me by the 29th of June. Susan and Jasmine.
I am sitting, pen poised, trying to think how I can fit my 92 years into 500 words. Well, here goes. I was the youngest of 3 children. My father worked hard as a toolmaker, but nevertheless, money was tight. I was not evacuated like many others, but somehow our family survived, bombing all around us. At 16, I began a 2-year art course at Wimbledon Art School. One of the course objects was to paint an outside view in oils. The result is what you see here. It was my aunt's sweet shop. After passing my art diploma 2 years afterwards, I went on national service to the RAF, followed mostly in this country, but more often in Germany. My first job role was in advertising, an advertising studio, of course. Everything was done by hand in those days, as there were no computers. Subsequently, I began an illustrator graphic design role with the Ministry of Defence, MOD, serving for over 40 years in the civil service and eventually running a studio. I got married to my lovely wife, Audrey, in 1959. Had a daughter and a son, and now have 3 grandchildren. After retirement at 60, I took up my main hobby full-time, running a church drama group at Rains Park Methodist Church, where I was christened as a baby and was a member for 90 years before moving to the island. I got involved in every aspect of the group: acting, directing, stage management, and of course scenery painting and design. Was involved in 105 3-act plays. I have recently begun attending Ryde Methodist Church, but don't think I'll manage to do another 90 years. In 1989, I was diagnosed with wet AMD, before injections were approved by the NHS, but now I receive them regularly, which has been beneficial and retained some sight for me in one eye. As I approach 90, I was living by myself and was finding things difficult around the house. My wife had died about 5 years previously, and she had been my support. My daughter and son-in-law moved to the Isle of Wight from Surrey, January 2020, to take on a holiday lodge business. I relocated to live with them, and my contribution to the business is to do all the ironing. I was registered as severely sight impaired at the beginning of 2021, but I'm so pleased to be part of the wonderful organisation Sight for Wight. I attend Mix and Mingle on a Thursday, and a typical morning is coffee, chat, a raffle, some more chat, some craft, which of course is right up my street, more chat, lunch, more chat, and a talk from a volunteer. So far I've been to the zoo, the Wild Heart Animal Sanctuary, and also the One Lunch Club. And I am booked on a theatre trip. I'm interested in any outings that my health will allow. All the staff and volunteers are extremely caring. They know each of us by name and understand our limitations, so that it's a bit about me. I'm looking forward to the next Thursday, the highlight of my week. Okay. I lost it a bit in one place, but I don't know that it's going to matter.
Befriending update. The befriending service has been up and running for just over a year. We would now like your feedback on whether the service is making a positive impact on you. Over the next month, I will be ringing everyone who receives a befriending call to talk you through a quick, confidential survey. We will also use the results to help us improve the service to ensure members benefit as much as possible from it. We hope the survey will reveal the befriending service is positive and is making a valuable difference to you, and this being the case, we can use the results to apply for future funding and to show the impact of the service. Thank you in anticipation for your time in completing this. It is really appreciated, along with your honest feedback of the befriending service. Once surveys have been completed, I will feed back a summary of the results. Thank you. Elaine, Befriending Manager.
Foot care. Val Sermon, a member of the Federation of Holistic Therapists, for £17.50, offers 30 minutes for soak, hard skin file, cuticle removal, nail trimming, moisturising foot and lower leg massage. Telephone 01983 615515 if you'd like an appointment with Val.
Karen update. The year seems to be flying past already, and wonderful to feel that summer is nearly upon us. As the weather has improved, it has been lovely to be able to support members with getting out and about. Whether it be gaining access to public transport, confidence walks in unfamiliar areas, or an assisted trip out to visit someone that you have been unable to see for a while. As always, Alexa has kept me busy, as have blue badge applications, and even support with the odd passport application for those thinking of going a little further afield. We still have a large selection of pre-loved hearing and visual equipment, an array of screen readers for purchase. If you feel there is any support that you need or any information, equipment or services, please get in touch. As you may be aware, alongside my role as Member Support Officer, I am currently training to become an assessor with the sensory team. This, I believe, will only enhance the service that we will offer to our members. With the knowledge and experience that the sensory team bring, I am finding out and learning more about the services and support facilities across the island. It is very exciting times for all. As always, let me know if I can help in any way. Karen Fazani, Member Support Officer.
Education update. The education programme has now been delivered to the whole of Bembridge Primary School, Year 5 at Shalfleet Primary School and Year 4 at Summerfield Primary School during the last 2 months. We have had some great feedback from teachers and pupils about the programme, some feedback being an excellent morning of activities, really well planned and delivered. It was lovely to see the children so engaged in what they were learning. That was the best morning. I've learned about different eye problems. Planned for this week, the programme will be delivered to the whole of Bryston Primary School, with future dates still to be confirmed with other schools over the coming months. A big thank you to those who come and help me in the schools. This programme wouldn't be able to run without your support. As discussed in the previous newsletter, our Hats and Sunglasses Day is on Tuesday the 21st of June. This day was created to spread the importance of keeping your eyes healthy to reduce the risk of avoidable sight loss. We are still encouraging the last few schools to join in. I look forward to seeing who joins in. Jasmine Edwards.
It has been nearly 12 months since we moved to Wight Sense and Sight for Wight. I have worked with people with a sensory loss for many years. I was a volunteer for 12 years with the RNID until I applied for the post of Equipment Officer and was employed with them in 2010. In 2014, following a staff reshuffle, I was offered the post of Deafblind Support Officer and have worked with people with a dual sensory loss ever since. My job is mainly assessing people in their own homes and issuing equipment to help with their dual sensory loss. I find my job extremely rewarding as I am able to make a difference to our service users' life on a daily basis. One of the most rewarding things that has happened to me since working at Wight Sense was when I attended the Easter Mix and Mingle. I joined in with the sausage and chip lunch, and it was so nice to meet lots of you. I was so pleased to be able to see people I had referred in the past to Sight for Wight, enjoying themselves and mixing with each other. This was really wonderful to see and something that I didn't used to experience. I would like to finish with a big thank you to the Sight for Wight team, volunteers and service users who have been so welcoming and made our move so much smoother. Karen Chessel.
Hello, my name is Paula Matthews and I'm the Technical Officer for Hearing Impairment with Wight Sense. I first started working initially as an Equipment Officer for RNID in 2008. After an organisational reshuffle, my job title was changed to Technical Officer, As a person with hearing loss myself, I can empathise with and understand and appreciate the complexities surrounding the condition. Although every person's experience of hearing loss is different, there are certain similarities which exist for the majority of people who have hearing loss. For instance, trying to have a conversation with another person in a crowded room can be near impossible when you wear hearing aids. Communication and social interaction that involves more than one-to-one becomes extremely difficult for most. My job involves undertaking assessments with people in their own homes and discussing their situation to identify any problem areas. This could be hearing the doorbell, watching the TV, or ensuring that they're woken in the morning for important appointments, etc. Once the assessment is complete, I can then discuss with them any equipment that may help. My job is enormously rewarding, and what I love most is meeting the people who come to us for help and hearing about the lives they've led. The stories they tell can be fascinating, intriguing, thought-provoking, and at times extremely touching. All different, but all equally captivating, and I feel honoured that they choose to share their personal history with me.
I am Mark O'Sullivan. I'm the manager for the new Wight Sensory Service, and my role involves providing support for our team of sensory specialists who provide much needed support for our clients across the island. The team carry out holistic assessments of need. They will provide equipment, make referrals to other organisations, and offer packages of individual support. All of this is completed without charge to anyone from the first point of contact. The Wight Sensory Service will support anyone who has a visual, hearing or dual sensory impairment, and the service extends to providing advice and support to family members who may be caring for a relative with a sensory impairment. We also have a range of equipment which we can provide that helps to make life easier for anyone with a sensory impairment, such as canes, liquid level indicators, daylight bulbs, TV listeners and flashing doorbells. My role as manager involves liaising with other services and organisations on the island to let them know about what we do, and I regularly attend meetings and events to talk about our service and how it can support islanders. I have worked in the voluntary sector since 2011 when I managed volunteers for another high-profile island organisation, and I've managed the Isle of Wight Sensory Service since 2019, during which time I have worked hard to highlight issues around islanders with sensory impairment. We are very pleased to be working with Sight for Wight, and we very much look forward to working as part of the wider team and getting to meet each of you in due course. It's Mark, the Sensory Service Manager, talking for a couple of minutes now about Lindsay, our Sight for Wight Service Administrator, who also works for the Wight Sensory Service. Unfortunately, she's not here today because she's off work, but she's written a little bit about herself, so I'll just read what she said actually. Hello, my name is Lindsay. I have recently joined Sight for Wight as Service Administrator for Wight Sense, the Isle of Wight Sensory Service. I've lived on the island all my life, and I currently live in Wroxall with my partner, my 2 children and our dog. I have predominantly worked in the care sector before joining the Sensory Service team, mainly in care homes around the island. The Sight for Wight team have made me feel very welcome. My biggest hobby is reading, and I am a huge Alice in Wonderland fan, and I have quite a collection of Alice in Wonderland books and memorabilia now.
This is Lisa reading the Wight Sense Update, Lisa. As CEO of Sight for Wight, I have taken on the role as CEO of Wight Sense to guide the team forward to provide a timely, friendly, professional and individual service to our clients. I myself am registered severely sight impaired, that's blind, but I also live with a progressive hearing loss, which started around 14 years ago. Like many people, I ignored the early signs of losing my hearing, but gradually I could not ignore it anymore. I couldn't hear conversations and I was guessing what people were saying, and the guessing was just getting harder and harder. I am now fully reliant on hearing aids, but I know that if I had not sought the right help at the right time, I would now be hiding away. Instead, I am fully engaged in life, which, yes, can be challenging with living with dual sensory impairment, but I wouldn't change a thing. So please, ask for help. One call can make a real difference. Lisa.
Tips from members. A good tip for when I use boxed tin foil and cling film: push both ends of the box inwards and the rolls won't fall out. Die from Sandown. When boiling any vegetables, I use a chip wire net basket in the pan so that when they are done, I lift the net out and there is no need to use a colander. This reduces the risk of pouring boiling water on yourself. Ruth from Newport. I am always struggling to know what colour jumper I am wearing, so something that's helped me is I snip the labels in the same way for my different coloured jumpers. Melbourne from Freshwater.
Dressing the straight body shape. In this article we are looking at the straight body. As this is my shape, I have an even greater understanding of the difficulties. The straight body shape is characterised by equal bust, waist and hip measurements. The lack of curves makes the body appear like a column or a rectangle. Rectangles tend to be tall and lean. They are not particularly curvy, the waist is not well defined and the bottom is rather flat. Characteristics of the rectangle figure is a straight shoulder line and rib cage. Bust and hips are approximately the same width. Very little to no waist definition. Small to average midriff. Straight hips and bottom, and a lack of curves throughout the body frame. Your aim when dressing your straight body shape. The upper and lower parts of your body are well proportioned and create a balanced silhouette. The focus of this body shape should be to define the waist, breaking up the rectangle. When enhancing your waist, you have two options. If you are very slender and want to create more curves, you can proportionally add volume to your upper and lower body and leave the waist as it is. Alternatively, you can make your waist appear slimmer by visually pulling it in by leaving the upper and lower body as is. Which garments are good for your rectangle body shape? Shirts, t-shirts and other tops. Shirts for the rectangle body shape should be creating shape by adding volume to the shoulder, bust and hip line, while at the same pulling in the waist. Shirts with nipped or belted waist, those draping under the bust, and shirts flaring out at the bottom achieve this. Belts are also a great way to create a waist. Darker colours will add a further slimming effect. Shirts should finish at the hip level. Avoid tops that end at the waistline, as this will make you look more rectangular. With details like embellishments, bibs, frills, bows, bottoms, rosettes, pockets, front panels, pleating, lace and ruffles, you can add volume and interest to your bust. Make sure these details are at the bust or above, not around your waist. Avoid boxy shirt styles that will make you look shapeless. To the right there is a picture of Princess Kate, who shows the style perfectly. Jackets. When it comes to outerwear, defining the waist is still a priority. Jackets should be nipped or belted in at the waist to create a shape. Embellishments on the bust are great to broaden the shoulder line, such as double breasting, pockets, plackets, belt carriers, button-downs, cuffs, flaps and hoods. Jackets should end below the waist so as not to emphasise it. Even better if they are slightly flaring towards the hips to create volume around the hips. Because of the square shoulder line of the rectangle body, straight cut jackets hang nicely from it and follow the natural silhouette of this body shape. Adding a belt will also create a bit of a waist. Avoid jackets that end above the waist, and boxy jackets will make you look square. Also, steer clear of embellishments around the waist that add bulk to that area. Trousers. The right pair of trousers can add needed curves and volume to the lower body of the rectangle. Trouser styles that flare at the bottom, like boot cut, flare or wide leg, are great to add volume. Choose trousers with hip, thigh or leg details such as pockets, pleats or turn-ups to create even further interest on your lower body. Opt for the low to mid-rise trousers with wide waistbands. Avoid high-rise trousers that end right at the waist. Flowy and soft fabrics soften the angled frame, such as a flowy linen or harem trousers. Avoid straight-fitted trousers that emphasise your straight silhouette unless you want to highlight this aspect. Dresses. A great dress for a rectangle body is balanced on top and bottom whilst pulling in the waist. One thing to look out for in dresses is high waist definition. Empire line dresses, princess seam dresses and wrap dresses are great choices for the rectangle body. A belt is a must-have and can change the shape of any dress. Wrap dresses are especially nice. The draping falls nicely over the straight body frame and creates the impression of curves. While you want to stay away from baggy or shapeless garments, a shift dress is the one exception to the rule. Thanks to its clean lines and tailoring, a shift dress will sit nicely on a rectangular body with a small bust and flat bottom. If you opt for dresses that flare quite a bit at the hem, make sure you balance out the top with details or big sleeves, such as ruffles. You can also achieve the same illusion through the colours you wear. With strategic colour blocking around the waist, the eye will naturally narrow that area of the body without physically adding more to it. Opt for dresses with darker colours around the waist, or add a dark belt to a dress. I hope that you're enjoying my articles and finding them helpful. Debbie.
999 BSL Relay Service. How does the service work? It is simple. You use 999 BSL app or website to make a call to 999. It will go to a British Sign Language BSL interpreter first, who will appear on the screen. The BSL interpreter will then call the 999 operator through a landline and will relay the conversation. When is the service available? 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Which emergency services can I contact via 999 BSL? Police, ambulance, fire or Coast Guard. Do I need to be connected to the internet? Yes, you must have a good internet connection to use this service. Either Wi-Fi or 3G, 4G, 5G connection. The better your connection is, the better quality your call will be. Can I call the service if I have a general question about how it works? No. You must only call the service if you have a real emergency. If you have any questions about how the service works, please email on info@999bsl.co.uk or visit the website at www.999bsl.co.uk. How can I make a call to 999 BSL? There are three main ways to call from. 1. 999 BSL app for iOS. 2. 999 BSL app for Android. 3. 999 BSL website at www.999bsl.co.uk. Can I receive a call back? Yes, the emergency services can call you back. For detailed information, visit www.999bsl.co.uk.
This is Lisa reading Blind Parents UK, supporting visually impaired parents and carers across the UK. Our services are completely free and offered by our dedicated team of volunteers, all of whom have lived with a visual impairment. We offer support to first-time parents-to-be through to great-grandparents, and our lively community sees a constant flow of questions, information and stories from our active members. We are very proud of our peer support model, believing the best people to help are those who have been through similar situations. Visit www.blindparents.uk. That's www.blindparents.uk for a confidential membership form to allow us to provide you the correct support quickly and efficiently to you. Alternative, you can leave a message on 01905 886252. That is 01905 886252. This phone line accepts messages and we will endeavour to return your call within 48 hours. You can also email us on info@blindparents.uk. That is info@blindparents.uk. Lisa.
Site for Wight 100 Club. Winners this time are Sue, Susan, Pauline and Ruth. A very big welcome to Viv, Sheila and John. If you would like to join the Sight for Wight 100 Club, you get a number for just £2 a month, and you are helping to support us too.
Ride Library Audiobook Group, read by Chris. Ride Library are reopening their audiobook group for people living with sight loss. The group will meet on the first Friday of each month at 2 p.m. Please contact Emma or Joe at the library on 01983 823825 for further information. Anna Southwell, read by Chris. Anna, who is a visually impaired member of Sight for Wight, is delighted to announce her second book in the series, Oliver Gruffle, Secrets of Harmony Haven. Written when Anna had full sight, this is now published ready to enjoy. Following on from the first book, The Runaways, this one is entitled The Scarab King, which is a magical fantasy story for young children but loved by adults. The story follows the adventures of 3 animal friends who have escaped from their unhappy life as they travel to a very secret place, Harmony Haven, which is somewhere on the Isle of Wight. They are very excited about meeting the amazing Oliver Gruffle, who will be their guardian. Members will be delighted to know that Book 2 has been dedicated to the wonderful volunteers at Sight for Wight as a thank you for all they do to enhance and enrich the lives of visually impaired islanders. The Runaways and The Scarab King are both available at the reduced price of £6.25, £6.99 usually, by contacting the office. Any book purchased by members and their friends will also be glad to know £1 for every book sold will go towards the members' club funds. Please note this reduction in price and donations only apply to the members' club and not through other outlets. Anna would also like to thank members and friends of Sight for Wight for purchasing The Runaways and enabling club funds to benefit.
Newport Carnival 100th anniversary. This year, Sight for Wight will be taking part in the main Newport Carnival procession to help celebrate 100 years of the carnival being held in Newport. But we need you to help with decorating and making props, but more importantly, to participate in the procession on Saturday the 23rd of July. We will be holding a planning meeting on the 15th of June at 10 a.m. at Millbrook House. Please come along with ideas and suggestions of how we can stand out from the rest. If you are unable to make the meeting but have suggestions, please do not hesitate to call the office and speak to Susan. If you would like to participate on the actual day of the carnival, please call the office so we were able to make a list and have some idea of participant numbers.
Vision loss after a stroke. Having a stroke can affect people in different ways, and life may be different afterwards. The Stroke Association is a national charity with a dedicated Isle of Wight team who can offer support to stroke survivors, their families and close network. About 2/3 of people have vision problems after a stroke, so the Isle of Wight branch are here to help. Assessment. The first step is to have your vision assessed. They can offer advice on ways of doing this for everyone, including those living with reduced cognitive and communication abilities, reduced field of vision. They offer practical support in learning new techniques such as visual scanning to help those living with blind patches and the use of optical prisms to widen field of vision. Reduced fine motor skills controlling eye movement. Stroke victims often suffer from reduced fine motor skills across the body, including the eyes. This can result in a variety of symptoms, such as impaired eye movement, reducing the ability to follow moving objects, inability to move eyes together, causing double vision, eyes working independently, causing lack of deception, eyes constantly moving,
making focusing much more challenging. There are exercises, prisms and patches that can help relieve some of these symptoms, which the Stroke Association can advise on. Visual processing problems. Some visual problems can cause by a change in the brain's ability to process the visual signals rather than a physical change to the eye's abilities and motor skills. The commonest type of visual processing problem is visual neglect, which means that you are unaware of your surroundings to one side. You may not realise that you are missing things around you. For example, you may be unaware of objects and people on your affected side and may ignore people or bump into things without realising they are there. Visual neglect can reduce your ability to look, listen or make movements towards part of your environment. It can be frightening and distressing to live with. Neglect is more common in people who have had a stroke on the right side of the brain, which affects their awareness of the left side. The person is not aware that they are missing part of their vision. Many people do recover well from visual neglect, and scanning and awareness strategies can be learned to help. People use their other senses to cope, such as touch and hearing, if they have problems such as difficulty recognises colours, faces, objects, complex scenes or text. This allows you to process the information in a different way and to help you to improve your awareness of the affected side. Tips for coping with visual problems. If you have double vision, try using a patch when reading or watching television. If you have lost your vision to one side, it is important to move your eyes and head towards the weaker side, for example, on entering a room. The more you scan and move your eyes and head to that side, the quicker you will detect objects on that side and reduce your risk of bumping into objects or tripping. When reading, use rulers and markers to highlight the beginning and end of sentences and to help you keep your position along a line of text. Make sure your lighting is good and where possible have it positioned to your side and not behind you, as this causes shadows. Reduce the number of objects on your surfaces at home, particularly in the kitchen. If there is too much clutter, it can be more difficult to pick out individual items. Visual problems are not always obvious for other people to see. You might find it helpful to explain your sight problems to friends, family and colleagues to help them understand the support you need. Our Wight Sense team is always also here to help. Please just call them on 240 222. The Stroke Association Island branch can offer emotional support and practical advice, signposting to other services, support for those whose communication has been affected by stroke. The service is free, funded by the Isle of Wight Council. Telephone 01983 898 301. Leave a voicemail. Email iow@stroke.org.uk. National helpline 0303 3033 100. National website www.stroke.org.uk. Lisa Holyhead.
This is Lisa reading the Living Well with Sight Loss article. We are delighted to now be running the Living Well with Sight Loss course with funding received from the Thomas Pilkington Trust here at Millbrook House in association with the RNIB. We have already run the first course in person and with people online, which was a great success. Whether you are born with sight loss, have a sudden change, or are living with a progressive condition, facing sight loss is undoubtedly a challenging time. The 2 3-hour sessions give information and support on the following key areas: Session 1, Part 1. Starting out. The Certificate of Visual Impairment, CVI process. Should you register? How do you register? And what are the main eye care services that follow? Part 2. In the home. Looking at how to regain independent living, the aids, the technology available. Session 2. Part 1. Out and about. Talking about independent mobility, using transport and the concessions available. Part 2. Looking after ourselves. General help on eye health, your own well-being, local services and leisure activities and your next steps. Session 1 in more detail is on registration and in the home. The first session goes through how the registration process works, the benefit of being registered and the services that you can then access. Session 2 goes into more detail on assessments and training, including how Sight for Wight and Wight Sense can help with daily living challenges. You will be introduced to the Low Vision Clinic at St Mary's, which gets you the right magnifier and teaches you how to use it. The ECLO, Eye Clinic Liaison Officer, who is Laura, also based at St Mary's, who supports you by telling you what services and support is available and answering your own specific questions. Assessment and rehabilitation, services through Wight Sense here at Millbrook. The assessments are carried out in your own home on a one-to-one basis and result in an individual plan to help you regain confidence, improve your daily living skills and mobility training with our qualified trainer. This includes lots of hints and tips like changing lighting, using contrast, using texture and many more examples from our own lived experiences. It will go into technology and how it can help you, together with where to get support using it. Session 2, Out and About, in more detail. This session looks about mobility, including types of cane, where you can get help, where you can get training, guide dogs and how to get around with public transport. It goes on to talk about benefits, how PIP, that's Personal Independent Payment, DLA, that's Disability Living Allowance, and Attendant Allowance, for example, can be applied for and who is entitled to, and again will offer you help in completing this. In part 2 of the second session, we cover Charles Bonnet syndrome, which affects many people and can be quite disturbing to live with. We also cover how to look after your eyes and, most importantly, how to look after your own mental health. These sessions are all intensive and thrive on lived experience input, which is why they are run by Ruth, one of our trustees, herself a guide dog user. If you would like to join the course, you can attend in person or over the phone. Just give the office a call to register. Lisa, end of article.
Sight for Wight Talking News. Each and every week, our team of volunteers comes into Millbrook House and, using the Isle of Wight Observer, the Island Echo, County Press, On the Wight and Isle of Wight Radio, they collate all local news into our weekly Talking News. They use our recording studio to read out at least 2 hours of talking news and, from the County Press, What's On, Looking Back, Skips and Scaffolding and Letters. You can receive a copy on USB stick sent to you every week or listen on our Alexa skill through Facebook or from our website.
This is Lisa reading Lisa's Charity Questions. Question 1. When was the Isle of Wight Society for the Blind established? What year? 2. How many trustees are currently in position? 3. How many of the trustees live with sensory impairment? 4. How many staff are there? 5. What is the name of the Alexa skill? 6. How many members of a society are there? 7. What supermarket changed their fire pit branding due to our lobbying? 8. How far do the Striders walk on average each month? 9. How many books does the audio library have available for free loan? 10. How many news sources does the Talking News use each week? 11. How many years has the Talking News been running? 12. How many years has the audio library been running? 13. Do Wight Sense charge for their home visit assessments? 14. Each week, which day do we hire the exclusive use of the Medina pool for our members? And finally, 15 is a riddle. I am something people love or hate. I change people's appearances and thoughts. If a person takes care of themselves, I will go up even higher. Some people might want to try and hide me, but I will always show. No matter how hard people try, I will never go down. What am I? I will repeat that. I am something people love or hate. I change people's appearances and thoughts. If a person takes care of themselves, I will go up even higher. Some people might want to try and hide me, but I will always show. No matter how hard people try, I will never go down. What am I? End of questions. Hello, this is Lisa, reading Lisa's Charity Questions, the answers. Answer number 1. We now believe 1855, although we used to think 1895. 2. 9. Sue, Christina, Ruth, Chris, John, Jeannie, Paul, Jack and Laura. 3. Ruth, Chris, Jeannie and Laura. The answer's 4. Question 4. There are 14 staff. Lisa, Mark, Chris, Susan, Jasmine, Paula, Karen, Elaine, Lindsay, Martin, Debbie, Janet and Sophie. Answer number 5. Say, Alexa, enable the Sight for Wight skill. Number 6. 672 members and counting. 7. Tesco's. 8. An average of 5 miles. 9. Just over 1,200. 10. The answer's 5. 11. 50 years. 12. 45 years. 13. No charges are made. 14. Monday, 1:30 until 2:30. And finally, the answer to the riddle is your age. End of answers.
How to get help. Sight for Wight 01983 52205. Email inquiries@iwsb.org.uk. Website sightforwight.org.uk. Wight Sense 01983 240 222. Email info@wightsense.org.uk. Website wightsense.org.uk. Office open Monday to Friday 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Address Millbrook House 137 Carisbrook Road, Newport, PO 30 1DD. Dress for less 01983 523 197. Email retail@iwsb.org.uk. 114 St James Street, Newport, Isle of Wight, PO 30 5HB.